A large flask with a round bottom, filled with blue liquid that swirls, gently bubbling over a magical burner. A hand, honed by practice, carefully pours green powder into a test tube. The young blonde alchemist Daisy concentrates her power and pours it into a vial through a glowing magical circle. She thoughtfully gazes into the swirling, smoky contents of the newly created potion. With a pleasant click, she seals a row of finished potions with strong quarks. She carefully places a chalkboard outside and quietly whispers to herself, "Be gentle with it." The next morning, Daisy stretches happily near her atelier, exclaiming what wonderful weather it is. The scene fades 5 years, where a butler named Sibas waters a majestic rose bush. The voice behind caught him by surprise, and he quietly gasped. A very young Daisy cheerfully greets him good morning and asks what he is busy with. Sabas returned with a warm smile, noticing that Miss Daisy seems to be in a good mood. He explains that he is simply tending to the beautiful blooming roses in the garden. Daisy opens her eyes wide, looks at the flowers, and excitedly says how wonderfully they are blooming. Sabas gives her credit, saying that the flowers have bloomed even brighter since she started helping. She modestly brushes off the compliment, insisting that she only learned from him and the gardener. Her gaze sharpens, she intently looks at one specific part of the rose bush. Dim light flickers in her eye, a sign that a hidden ability is awakening. Her keen gaze notices a weak rose and realizes that weeds are stealing its nutrients. Sabas says, impressed, that this went unnoticed and is already preparing to act. He quickly bends down and with one clean sweep pulls the annoying weeds out of the ground. He laughs and praises her for her watchful eye, giggles cheerfully. Having finished the task, he turns to the girl and suggests going for tea. Daisy agrees with a bright, joyful okay, extending her hand in excitement. The scene shifts to the stately house of Persularia, where they will have tea. On the cozy veranda, Siba gently pours tea for young Daisy. Young Daisy quietly sipped the steaming tea, while a gentle breeze whispered on the veranda. An elegant woman arrives and, smiling, says how beautiful the roses are this year. The woman smiled and warmly thanked Sebas for his wonderful work on those beautiful flowers. Sebas proudly says that Melody Daisy's help was extremely useful in their care. Blushing Daisy, hearing the praise, mumbles that Sebas didn't need to say that. Siba just laughed and sincerely apologized for his insistence, while she pouted. The woman gently tousles Daisy's hair and says that she did a great job. Encouraged, Daisy decides to share the secret of her gardening knowledge. Her gaze changed and a window with the status of the roses appeared before her eyes. It clearly showed that they were sick. Her eye glows as she explains that she has a rare skill to assess. She mentally notes to herself, later she will have to take care of the flowers. She explains with a sparkle in her eyes that her skill works both on people and on plants. She admits that she almost never uses it on people, she considers it impolite. Because of this, she explains that she has not revealed her ability to anyone else. Suddenly their quiet tea is torn apart by a loud problem from afar. The woman listens to the noise in surprise, and the frightened Daisy asks for the bass regarding the time. Sabas calmly looks at his pocket watch and quietly tells her that it is already a little past 10. This news throws Daisy into a panic. She exclaims that she must go. The woman asks where she is running to, while Daisy rushes off the veranda. Daisy exclaims that it is time for her magical training and quickly runs away. The scene shifts to an open training ground where thick wooden logs are set up as targets. The source of the noise is revealed. Magic cruelly shatters the logs into splinters. The young man Daisy's older brother stands, gasping but triumphant after his powerful spell. Sister Dahlia is glowing with excitement, praising him, while Yulia notes his incredible strength. The brother modestly and sincerely said thank you, accepting their words of praise and admiration. Dahlia shouted to Julia, asking to be taken next, and at that moment Daisy appeared. Out of breath, Daisy apologizes to Julia for being late to the lesson. Julia is confident that everything is fine, they have just started. Julia orders Dahlia to aim at the next deck and tells Daisy to watch carefully. Dahlia steps forward, her face serious. She is gathering her magical energy. She shouts the spell Wind Blade and releases a sharp cut of wind magic. The wind blade hit the target with a dull thud and stuck into the deck. Dahlia celebrates her success and Daisy watches from the side, impressed that Dahlia had kept this from her until now. Julia praises Dahlia, says it's a good start, but urges her to make it even stronger. Julia turned to Daisy and said, "You are next." Dahlia clenches her fists and insists that the ceremony is just around the corner. She must cope with it. Daisy mentally realizes that she has not yet managed perfectly. She gathers all her courage, confident that this time it will finally be different. With all her strength, she imitates the pose and shouts, "Windblade." The air freezes and only the chirping of birds breaks the silence. Her spell weakens. She puffs her cheeks in frustration. Her spell did not work. Yulia explains that it seems Daisy still cannot release the magic that is raging inside her body. Daisy exclaims in despair, why can her brothers and sisters do it but she cannot? Her brother notes that they have been practicing for almost 2 years already. He gently tousles her hair, confident that she will be able to do it after a few more years of practice. In a text frame, a bitter truth is revealed. After that, she was never able to do it again. At night, the Pressler house is silent, but within its walls, Daisy finds no peace. She tosses in bed from side to side and cannot calm down. The sounds of her restless movements fill the silence in her bedroom. She moans in her sleep, and her face shows that she is dreaming of something disturbing. In her dream, fragmented memories of her parents and an angry mother. Dark silhouettes of her parents quietly discuss that she needs a tutor. She wakes up with a sudden, sharp breath, clutching the fabric of her nightgown. She gasps convulsively, her hand clenches into a fist as she tries to calm down. With horror in her heart, she realizes that the dream has come again. Trying to chase away the thoughts, she flops back into bed. She drives away the thoughts and falls asleep again. The ceremony is about to begin. Moonlight pours through her window, and she settles under the blanket. In Zartenberg, the story says, all citizens are baptized at 5 years old. During the sacred ritual, God gives each person their destiny. And this job is inscribed in an official certificate, which cannot be forged, and it is valid for life. Popular professions like swordsmen or mages are simply amazing. They are great both for employment and for marriage prospects. As soon as a person is given a job, it seems they begin to improve their skills faster. A rare skill is very difficult to develop without a suitable job. It simply will not grow. Daisy's father is the deputy chief mage, and her family has been producing brilliant mages for generations. Both her older brother and older sister have already received mage jobs, and she is eager to catch up with them. Finally, the day of baptism has come, a majestic and thrilling moment for the young girl. Family approaches the grand cathedral for the ceremony. Pews are full of people, all gathered for the important ritual. Daisy, holding her father's hand, froze with admiration. The church was enormous. She scans the chattering crowd and sees how full the pews are. She sits down, her tiny figure seeming lost in this huge, solemn space. She looks around and notices there are so many children her age around. The camera slowly rises along the majestic architecture of the church, making its size even more impressive. The sun pours through the tall arched windows and fills the sacred space with golden light. In the grand hall, young Daisy says with hope that after the ceremony she wants to practice magic together with her brothers and sisters. Dad looks at her with a gentle smile, reassuring her. He is sure that she will also become a sorceress. Next to clench fists, she promises her father that she will train diligently and make him proud. From the high podium, the old attendant loudly announces the name Daisy von Presleria. Standing in the pew, Daisy confidently answered yes, confirming that she is here. The little girl makes her way to the very front of the huge, sunlit hall. Concise gestures toward the podium seem to invite her to step forward. Her delicate steps barely make a rustle as she climbs the stairs. He watches as she approaches and mentally notes that she is the daughter of a respected vice mage. He orders her to place her palm on the crystal so that her divine calling may be revealed. With a gaze full of quiet, solemn expectation, she extends her small hand. Her fingers can touch the cool, smooth surface of the large sphere. Crystal begins to glow and hum with a low, resonant magical tone. Connected device, as if alive, starts printing her certificate. Paper slowly emerges from the machine. It is a text revealing her former profession. Her eyes scan the document, and for a moment confusion flashes across her face. Her face contorts with pure, unadulterated shock and disbelief. Noticing her frozen silence, Efficient gently asks if something is wrong. She instantly composes herself and insists that it is nothing at all. Holding back anger and disappointment, she bows coldly and formally. She turns and walks away with heavy steps while he calls the next child. The majestic doors of the hall slammed behind her back, and a loud echo shattered the silence. Her hurried steps stomped on the stone of the empty yard. Standing alone outside, she breathes heavily, overwhelmed by despair. Looking at the certificate, she grieves. This was not supposed to happen. She does not believe the result and thinks with surprise, who is this alchemist? She refuses to believe and stubbornly says, I am the daughter of a major, so I cannot be anyone else. The full weight of this situation falls upon her. This is a real disaster. Dark memory emerges. A voice full of pain cries that their child is a servant. Shadowy figures decided to hire her a teacher so that she would not remain under their surname. A series of painful nightmares filled with cruel words and mockery flashed through her mind. Returning to the present, she drops to her knees on the ground, completely confused. She burst out loud with despair, her heart broken. She did not become a mage. A tear ran down her face as she spoke with horror, fearing to become a burden. Her family is leaving the hall, the father calls her anxiously. Her sudden appearance startled her unexpectedly, she gasped quietly. Without saying a word, she sharply turned on her heel and ran away. Father shouted after her, then told sister Rose to go home. Rose watches them leave, deep worry for her sister plays on her face. She notices a certificate abandoned on the ground and wonders why it was thrown away. She carefully picks up the important document from the grassy yard. Her eyes widen, she suddenly understands after reading one word on the paper. Looking toward where Daisy ran, she whispered her sister's name with understanding. She holds the certificate in her hands, and the word alchemist finally makes sense in this situation. The scene changes before us. Externally stands a large, majestic house. Few calm clouds gently float in the clear blue sky. The camera freezes on the impressive architecture of the Presloria family mansion. Inside, the father enters the room. Rose is waiting for him there. He asked where Daisy was, and there was anxiety trembling in his voice. Rosen tells him that Daisy locked herself in her room as soon as they arrived. He plops into the armchair, disappointed, and in his thoughts searches for where everything went wrong. Rose asked if Daisy's reaction was related to alchemy, and her father confirmed it. With pain in his voice, he says he is deeply worried about his daughter's future and her prospects. He vividly shows that healers are true saviors on the battlefield, unlike other, less honorable professions. He explains most alchemists run modest shops because they do not have government service. He waved off the legendary philosopher's stone, calling it an implausible, contrived myth. Rose quietly slides him a cup of tea while he dispels the last doubts. She is certain now her sister definitely thinks that alchemy is a bad job. He bitterly regrets Daisy probably wanted to follow in the footsteps of her brothers and sisters. Rose sees it from a different angle and says that for Daisy it is not bad at all. Father lifted his head from the cup of tea, looking at her in surprise because of her unexpected words. He asked her to explain what she meant by her comment. She enthusiastically praises Daisy for her intelligence, diligence, and deep interest in plants. Her father, not hiding his surprise, admits that he is hearing about this for the first time. Rose believes that with this job Daisy could be happy and live a full life. Suddenly an idea occurred to him: she should be allowed to experience alchemy firsthand. He said decisively, "Gather everything needed and get to work immediately." Scene shifts. Outside, the house is slowly enveloped by the first twilight. Camera stops the gaze on the closed bedroom door where a nameplate hangs. Close-up reveals the name Daisy, neatly hanging on the door. Inside, a small, lonely figure sits on the edge of her bed. Daisy is bent over, hiding her face in her hands, overwhelmed with sadness. She mourns the future she imagined for herself as a witch, just like her beloved brothers and sisters. Night falls and she slowly drifts into sleep, hoping that these three might come in handy. Her eyes slowly and tremblingly open after a disturbing dream. She whispered the word dream, curled up in bed. Close-up of her eye, it shows her diving into a deep memory. By her bed, a vase with a single striking spider lily. She opened her eye wide, a deep insight flashed within it. She sat up in bed, a strange but familiar feeling envelops her. Suddenly her small body was seized by a fierce, convulsive wave of coughing. She coughs into her palm a dark ink-like substance, feeling that time is short. She sadly recalls how lonely her past life was. Suddenly a memory surged: I was born into a noble baronet family. She remembers how at her ceremony God assigned her the humiliating task of a servant. Her proud and ambitious parents wanted to disown her for tarnishing their name. She was given lessons in etiquette and bookkeeping to preserve some dignity. Her parents ordered her to strive to become a servant who would not sell their name. She was forced to master a huge amount of information in a short time. A cruel tutor hit her and called her worthless because of that one mistake. When she was 10, after many years as a servant, she was pushed out of the house. She had to go to work. During a severe coughing fit, when she suddenly dropped a glass, she contracted an incurable disease. Her parents refused to take her back and locked her in quarantine in a dilapidated shack. Lying sick and alone, she remembers that no one ever came to visit her. Her last desperate wish was simple: for someone to love her. Her last thought was a quiet apology for not being able to take better care of herself. Her hand reaches for the flower and life slowly begins to fade. Spider lily is the last thing she sees before she dies. Flower silently stands by her bed as her life slowly fades. In her last lonely moment, a barely noticeable, calm smile appeared on her lips. In the confused emptiness, consciousness sees a dazzling, piercing white light. A joyful voice announces the birth of His Excellency's child. A recently reborn consciousness wonders, did she just die? A new mother, tired but radiant, calls the crying baby a pretty girl. Suddenly, a young boy with spiky hair appears below and calls her his little sister. He jokingly poked the baby's soft cheek and heard a muffled sound of protest. The boy smiles gently, full of curiosity about his new brother or sister. In a burst of childish excitement, she lightly bumped her head against him. Her father gently reproaches his son, reminding him to be gentle and caring with the new little sister. The boy looked at his father and asked what they would name the baby. The father consults with his wife Rose and suggests settling on the name Daisy. Rose confirmed they will name the daughters Daily or Daisy after flowers. The baby's consciousness suddenly realizes these people around are her new parents. The mother, with a tender, loving smile, looks down at her newborn daughter in her arms. The sight of their luxurious estates finally confirms the stunning realization: she has been reborn. The narrator recalls how in the Persleria house he was enveloped by immense love and happiness. The girl happily extends a flower to the little boy. The girl peacefully settled in her stroller and cheerfully waves her little hand at the butterfly. In the picture, her very young brother and sister tenderly care for her. On the narrator's face is a quiet calm but a deep, thoughtful tension. She feels that the love she received fulfilled the last wish of her past life. New days filled her with a deep sense of satisfaction and happiness. She felt simple joy in ordinary tasks, for example, when watering the flowers in the garden. She tenderly recalls how her younger sister Daisy loved her very much. However, the feeling of approaching changes strains the otherwise happy memory. The narrator explains that having two minds in one body is an unnatural, unstable state. She resolutely decides not to take the body, as it rightfully belongs to Daisy. She decides to give away useful memories from her past life as a farewell. With a gentle smile, she extends a chamomile, wishing happiness in her final farewell. Younger Daisy watches, feeling the full weight of this moment. The little girl begins to run towards her other self. Daisy rushed forward, shouting to her older sister, and clung to her in a desperate embrace. Through tears, she imploringly asks her not to go because she is terribly afraid of losing her. The narrator looks at her sadly with a gaze that silently says, "I know everything, but I am resolute." She kneels down and repeats again that the body rightfully belongs to the chamomiles and she cannot take it. They embraced one last time sincerely and with deep sorrow. She whispered to Daisy, "Will you forget me when I am gone?" Gently stroking her head, she whispers the last tender words to soothe her. She gently reminds Daisy that she has a wonderful family and there is nothing to worry about. As her figure dissolves into the leaves, she whispers a final thank you to the Persleria family. She also sincerely thanks the sweet and charming Daisy. She thanks God for these memories and vows to cherish every moment with them in her heart forever. Daisy suddenly twitched in bed, let out a sharp scream, and called her older sister. She got up and, completely confused, looks around her empty room. She touches her cheek and feels moisture tears. She wipes her eyes and wonders, what did she dream about and why is she crying? Next to her on the wall, the clock shows already 7 in the morning. Suddenly her stomach growled loudly, reminding her of hunger. She stuck her toes out beyond the edge of the bed and suddenly remembered that she hadn't eaten since last night. She easily throws on a simple, oversized robe over her nightgown. Quietly she creeps across the floor of her bedroom. She goes down the stairs in slippers, one careful step at a time. With a quiet creak, she opens the door to find food. In the room, mother and maid froze in surprise. She suddenly appeared. Her mother's face blossoms and she calls Daisy with relief. She rushes forward and hugs Daisy tightly and warmly. The hen gently touches her head, responding to the friendly good morning. Her older brother appears and suggests reading the book he found for her together later. He gently reminds her of the promise to help decorate her room with flowers. Her older sister Winks smiled and suggested that they could go pick flowers together. Overwhelmed with emotions, Daisy apologizes for locking herself in the room. A loud rumble in the stomach suddenly breaks that tender family moment. Mother claps her hands. She understands that her daughter must be terribly hungry. She sharply addressed the maid Ellie, "Quickly prepare soup or risotto." In the kitchen, a pot of soup on the stove begins to bubble and release thick steam. The kitchen is neat and well equipped. Various kitchen utensils hang on the wall. Daisy quietly eats the soup, her gaze thoughtful and distant. She cannot understand why her family treats the unwanted child so kindly. Dark fear runs through her and makes her think, could this dinner be their last? The sudden creak of a moved chair startled her right during the meal. Father comes joyfully, hugs her from behind, and gently strokes her head. He sincerely apologizes for the difficult events that surrounded the recent ceremony. His face brightens as he happily says he has a gift for her. Daisy lifted her gaze from Romeo. His words instantly sparked her curiosity. He leads her out of the main house and takes her to a separate building. She follows him along the path, her small feet quietly tapping on the ground. He calls her to follow him to the small shed on their plot. She looks at the building, wondering what it could be. Father nodded, inviting her to enter the building with him. She peeks into the door, her eyes filled with both anxiety and curiosity. Horizon froze in amazement upon seeing this magnificent laboratory. Sunlight pours through the large windows, making all the glassware sparkle. Sight of the well-equipped room completely captivated her. Tiny glass bottles and jars line the shelves. On the table, like a silent witness, stands a stack of books. Around it gleam alchemical instruments. Father, smiling proudly, asked if she liked her new room. He winked and explained with a smile that it was a gift for their future alchemist. He also hands her a large leather-bound book. She instantly recognizes the tome, the book about alchemy. She flips through the pages with a quiet rustle, her face focused. I scan the horizon of complex terms: filtration, distillation, and potion. Done, she quietly asks if all this is really for her. Her father simply nods with a gentle, reassuring smile. Tears well up in her eyes as she asks if they are expelling her because she is not a mage. He immediately kneels and sincerely promises that they will never drive her out. He explains that God gave her the gift of alchemy because it suited her perfectly. He firmly says she is not superfluous, she is important to their family. With a light rustle, he gently wipes her tears with a handkerchief. He presses the alchemy book to her chest, and her sniffling slowly subsides. Deep relief washes over her as the truth finally reaches her. With deep relief, Daisy realizes that she was never an unwanted child, she was simply misunderstood. A view appears before her eyes of a small, charming laboratory building standing in the family yard. Inside, Daisy cheerfully hums a song as she approaches the wooden table. She decisively places the heavy book on the table, ready to dive into studying. The book cover opens, in ornate script is written alchemy. Flipping through the pages, she thoughtfully asks herself where is the best place to start. Horizon enters the first chapter and doubts its simple focus on water. Engrossed in reading, she quietly reflects. Her path as an alchemist begins with water. The book reveals even ordinary water can actually be different, there are many types of it. She learns that even clear water can hide microscopic bacteria and be dangerous to use. Intrigued by this new knowledge, she decides to go herself and explore different types of water. She decisively and carefully places her new alchemy book into her backpack. Her little feet stomp around the yard as she runs to her destination. She approaches the stone well with its cozy wooden roof, ready for her first trial. With every creak of the pulley, she pulls up a bucket of water. Her skill of assessment kicks in. She shows that the water contains bacteria and small insects. She is surprised to find that the water, which looked clean, is actually contaminated. With her findings in hand, she enters the kitchen, on alert, preparing to ask a few questions. A girl named Kate politely turns and asks how she can help Miss Daisy. Daisy cautiously asks if it is safe to drink water straight from the well. Kate firmly tells her that water should always be boiled first. She warns drinking unboiled water can lead to stomach upset. Understanding what is meant, Daisy then asks if there is boiled water. Kate kindly pours her a glass of chilled water from the nearest pitcher. She extends the glass to Daisy and says, "You may drink." Daisy's eyes instantly focus, as if the optics zoomed in. She activates her special ability to assess glass. The test result is good news. The water in the kitchen is safe and free of any bacteria. Relieved to hear the result, she greedily drank the entire glass of water. She returns with a radiant smile and thanks Kate for the refreshing drink. The investigation continues. She walks to the quiet pond in the yard. Standing at the edge of the pond, she thoughtfully looks at the water and wonders if it is clean. Her inspection confirmed the suspicions. The water is dirty and unsuitable for drinking. Returning inside, she examines the pitcher with rainwater and finds impurities from the air in it. Flipping through the book, she suddenly realized boiling only produces ordinary water. She persistently turns the pages, searching for a way to further improve its quality. The book reveals a key detail: alchemy requires distilled water. Realizing that she cannot do without a distiller, she decides that it's time to return to the laboratory. From the high window, her parents watch as she resolutely walks away. Her mother smiles, noticing that Daisy seems very busy with her investigations. Her father agrees, seeing her huge and sincere interest in alchemy. He glows with excitement and eagerly awaits to watch her continue to grow and learn. With a soft click, Daisy opens the door to her personal laboratory. She scans the shelves in search of a distiller and finally notices one with a triumphant "aha." Following the diagram, she carefully assembles the glass apparatus and says, "Ready." She realizes that she should not light the fire herself, so she decides to call Kate to ask for help. As she leaves, she is already about to go to the well to fetch fresh water for her experiment. The scene changes and before us appears the exterior of the laboratory building. Kate is now nearby. Daisy excitedly prepares to start the distillation. She carefully lights the magical device. A quiet hum comes to life, starting the heating process. The water in the round bottom flask above the flame begins to boil vigorously, bubbling. She watches eagerly as the condensed steam drips into the receiving flask. An experienced gaze confirms the result. The water is of excellent quality, pure, free of impurities, distilled. Shining with pride, she clenches her fist and declares her first experiment a complete success. Kate warmly claps her hands, congratulating her young lady on a job well done. Burning with the desire for new trials, she opens her book on potions. She reads that the ingredients are simple and that she can use her brand new distilled water. She calls Kate, ready to ask for the next set of materials. Kate decisively confirms that she will go to the cellar and pick up the healing, magical herb. Transitional shot reveals the exterior of the building. Another angle of the laboratory, cozily nestled among the trees on the grounds. The expertise confirmed, the healing herb given to her is of ordinary quality. Having gathered all the ingredients, she is finally ready to brew her first potion. Reading the instructions, she learns that she must wash, dry, and make an extract from the herbs. She looks at the stirring stick and hesitates, should she just mix all the ingredients? Deciding that whole leaves won't mix well, she tears them into smaller pieces. She carefully pours distilled water into the flask with the torn herbs. With a watchful, tense gaze, she begins to stir the mixture. Small fragments of torn leaves swirl in the water as she stirs them. Her gaze sharpens, she activates her evaluation skill and checks her work. She froze in shock, the potion failed and had no effect at all. Kate, noticing the sudden change in her behavior, asked, "What happened?" Embarrassed by the failure, Daisy quickly brushed off the anxiety and insisted it was nothing. She silently asked herself what went wrong, if she was sure she had followed all the instructions. She tells Katie that today's experiments have so far concluded. Kate respectfully bows her head and offers her help for any future experiments. Determined, Daisy decides to go back and reread the book to find her mistake. The sun sets, birds return to their nests and call in the evening air. The view opens to the window of the main house, where Daisy sits and studies. In the room, Daisy is bent over the table and intently studies the book on alchemy. She wearily stretches and mutters to herself how exhausting this work is. Rubbing her sleepy eyes, she notices how difficult this text is and how many complex words it contains. Her tired gaze relentlessly runs over the pages in search of any clue. Suddenly, her gaze fell on a certain passage, and she understood where she had made a mistake. She reads, "Extraction is a process when ingredients are selectively separated." Finally, it dawned on her, it was not just mixing. The book explicitly says, grinding the ingredients into powder is the most effective method. Her face lit up with a bright smile. She was sure that this was the problem. She decides that tomorrow she will try this new method in her experiment. The next day she appears in the laboratory again and loudly announces that she has returned. Kate smiles warmly at her, holding the mixing bowls that Daisy had requested. Daisy thanks her warmly, eager to start a new, even better experiment. Kate finally suggests cutting the ingredients and warns that it might be dangerous. They work side by side. Kate does the shopping and Daisy crushes herbs in the mortar. Daisy is fully immersed in the work, grinding the ingredients into a fine powder. She looked around and admired Kate's skillfully cut herbs. She smiles thoughtfully, as the daughter of an aristocrat, I wouldn't have known how to do this. Kate puts off the chopped herbs for later, for the time when Daisy will be ready, and thanks her. With renewed determination, Daisy rolls up her sleeves and prepares to move forward. She decides to first use the ingredients she ground herself. She carefully transfers the fine powder from the mortar to the measuring cylinder. Daisy begins, carefully pours the powdered ingredients into the measuring cylinder for her experiment. With a determined look, she lights the burner, this time deciding to add more fire. Cheerfully humming, she stirs the mixture and now feels much more confident. After some time, she stops and thinks, isn't it time to check? She looked and said, this is not spoiled potion, but it is of low quality. Noticing a bitter taste, she decides to heat the potion a little more. The next check showed better flavor extraction, but the bitterness also increased. She groans, bitter medicine helps, but this is already too much. Suddenly, the potion begins to bubble and foam wildly. It means something is wrong. Final check reveals, due to excessive heat, the quality has dropped. Having learned the lesson, she extinguishes the flame with a single click. For the next attempt, she decides instead to use the ingredients she finally chopped. At her work desk, she carefully follows the instructions of this new method. As soon as the mixture starts to bubble, she immediately decides to turn off the fire. In the end, the potion turned out to be of ordinary quality. It is still bitter, but noticeably milder. With a pleasant jingle, she begins to pour her creation into bottles. She quietly but firmly explains her plan. First, strain the liquid through cloth. Then she decisively and tightly inserts the squeaky cork into the bottle neck. Holding the flash key, she triumphantly announces that the potion is finally ready. She returned to the maid and called loudly to attract Kate's attention. Suddenly waking from drowsiness, Kate asks what her young lady needs. Daisy explains how she managed it, but asks if the bitter potion is really meant for drinking. Hedda piercingly asks how Daisy can know the taste at all if she hasn't tried it. Completely unexpectedly, Daisy froze for a moment and lost the power of speech when she realized her mistake. She hurriedly finishes the experiment and runs out of the laboratory, leaving Kate confused. Her small steps quietly tap on the ground as she walks away from the workshop. She finally dares to tell her parents about both the potion and her ability. Shot shifts outside before us is her luxurious family estate. In the study filled with books, the father asked what secret she wanted to share. Daisy slid a bottle of the potion across the table and calmly explained, "It is ordinary but bitter." Her parents froze in shock when they learned she had done it herself. Her father did not believe that a 5-year-old could have brewed the potion alone. He asks in surprise whether she determined the quality of the potion only by taste. She stubbornly says that she didn't drink anything, and the father only becomes more confused. The mother then asked in surprise how she could have known about its properties at all. Daisy explains that she discovered her ability to assess when she was taking care of the flowers. Her parents are completely stunned by this new incredible confession. She admits she also noticed that it affects people but kept silent and kept it a secret. Father gently reassures her they will not hate her and asks her to assess him. Relieved by their reaction, Daisy willingly agrees to show what she is capable of. Her eyes narrowed and focused on her father, she looks intently to activate the ability. She proudly says that her father, as she suspected, is incredibly powerful. He confirms that her assessment revealed all his numerous strengths in detail. Father froze in amazement how accurate and deep her assessment was. He is amazed, it revealed in him traits that he himself did not even suspect. He tells with a flash in his voice how rare and precious such a skill is in their country. Mother enthusiastically praises her intelligence and says that her future is in the department of alchemy. Father gently stroked her head, full of pride. They warn her such a powerful ability can attract dangerous people. Daisy listens to their warning with a serious and thoughtful expression on her face. Father quickly calms her and says that she should be proud of her incredible gift. Her face instantly lit up, relief and joy from the parents' praise spread within her. Mother whispers, "Use this incredible gift from God very carefully." Sudden, desperate knock on the door interrupts their important conversation. Burst in, apologizing, and reported about the incident. Henry and Daisy ran headlong down the stairs to find out what happened to Remus. The maid anxiously explains that Remus was wounded by shards of a magical target. Henry looks at his son worriedly and calls him by name. He sternly reminds the boy he is strictly forbidden to train alone. Ramos apologizes, explaining that he is eager to improve his magical skills as soon as possible. The father, although understanding, insisted that he must follow safety rules. Suddenly an idea occurs to him, and he suggests trying Daisy's new potion right now. A bit nervous, Daisy hands the bottle to the father and he thanks her. He uncorks the bottle with the elixir and, with a confident tone, says that it will work even if simply applied externally to the skin. He carefully pours the liquid directly onto the deep wound on Remus's arm. The wound barely glows and the elixir instantly begins to work its magic. Remus watches in disbelief, his hand completely heals without pain and without scars. Henry wipes his hands and with a satisfied smile confirms that the potion worked perfectly. He smiles, shows Daisy a thumbs up, and enthusiastically praises her for the excellent work. Ram holds an empty vial and asks with surprise if that was her potion. Henry proudly confirms it was the very first potion she ever brewed. Remus looks admiringly at her skill and bitterly regrets that he himself does not even have basic healing magic. Overwhelmed by all these compliments, Daisy blushed and giggled happily. At the edge of the bottle, there is still one single drop of potion left. Out of curiosity, Remus licks that accidental drop from his finger. His face instantly twisted in disgust, and he shouted out in bitterness. He pushed the bottle away and said he would not drink such a bitter substance. With a theatrical gesture, he demands that she make future potions less bitter. The parents smiled and laughed at his instant and persistent demands to improve something. Not missing the moment, Henry hands Daisy money for her work. Daisy is stunned, a generous pile of coins was placed in her palm. She clutches the payment in her hands, feeling a deep sense of professional success. Having honed her skills, she vowed not to stop to continue learning and doing everything in her power. To improve her alchemy, Daisy decides to grow the ingredients herself. Shovel bites into the earthwork begins on the new field. A man named Dan finds the perfect sunny spot for the new garden. He offers to take on all the hard, tedious work she still has left. Daisy sharply stops him and insists she must learn to do it herself. Dan is impressed by her determination, and she gladly confirms it. With a sparkle in her eyes, she announces her big dream, to open her own atelier in the royal city. He supports her ambitions and promises to teach her everything he knows. With a determined look, she accepts his offer, ready to work hard. After the first lesson, she again assigns him work with a smile. The eyes open to beauty. A small town is hidden in the valley, and above it towers a large bridge. Work continues, and it is not firmly nailed to the ground. Dan proudly stands over the freshly dug and fenced garden beds. He solemnly announces to the completely exhausted chamomile that the field is finished. He enthusiastically praises her for the enormous work and incredible efforts with which she created this field. Daisy, worn out, angrily complains about the exhausting physical labor in the garden. Dan agrees but points to their result, the magnificent new field. Dan stands in the middle of the freshly dug field and asks Daisy what she is going to plant. Startled, Daisy enthusiastically hands over a book and says to him, "Look at my idea." She imagines a beautiful mountain landscape and dreams about what they could achieve together. Standing on a green hill, she joyfully exclaims an amazing, endless landscape spread out before her. Daisy thinks that now she will have to gather herbs on the outskirts of the city. She quietly complains to herself how slowly the arrangement of her shop will go. She was walking along the slope and her gaze caught on an unfamiliar plant. Her skill and evaluation says, "This is eternal grass, an exceptionally nutritious ingredient." She calls her companion Dan. He turned around and asked what happened. Pointing at the plant, she explains that it seems rich in nutrients and that she wants it. Dan recognizes this eternal, exceptionally high-quality grass and enthusiastically notes how many different uses it has. With one powerful jerk, he easily pulled out a large clump of earth along with the plant's roots. He lowers the overflowing plant into a bucket and asks if this will be enough for her. Daisy, with the new ingredients securely hidden, adjusts her backpack and is already ready to move on. Dan suggests now heading to those streams she wanted to see. They approach a calm, sunlit stream gently flowing through a cozy forest. He whispered to her that this is exactly the place where the best healing herbs grow. Filled with excitement, Daisy rushes forward to explore the promising new spot. She looks enchanted at how many herbs grow around them. Dan smiles, pleased that she will be able to gather everything she needs here. Daisy carefully surveys the surroundings, searching for the very herbs needed for her alchemy. Suddenly, Dan feels that something is wrong and freezes in place. He desperately shouted to Daisy to be careful and rushed towards her. He pushed her to safety just at the moment when a huge paw sliced through the air. He stood in front of her, protecting her, and grimly said that their luck had run out. The monstrous angry rabbit growls, and her skill instantly reveals it is deadly dangerous. Dan finds it incredibly strange to encounter such a creature here. Daisy noticed a deep cut on his arm and screamed his name in horror. He pretends that the wound is not serious and tells her, "Stand behind me, it will be safer for you." Two more terrible rabbits broke out of the forest and rushed at them. The creatures struck Dan and his companion, knocking them down with their incredible strength. One rabbit pins Dan down, its sharp teeth gnashing, and it prepares to bite. He fights the creature, shouting in horror how huge and raw its strength is. Frightened, Daisy does not know what to do. Without a weapon, she feels completely helpless. She desperately dreams of being able to use magic, but admits with regret that she still cannot. Gathering all her determination, she decided that she must try to say the spell right now. She whispers "Wind Blade" again and again while the rabbit bites into Dan's arm. Another rabbit casts its predatory gaze on Daisy, noticing her failed spell. Seeing Dan in trouble, she desperately begs for her magic to work. As if a tiny invisible creature resembling a fairy barely touched her outstretched hand. Closing her eyes tightly, she shouts the spell "Blade of the Wind" with all her might. A sudden gust of wind magic strikes the rabbit and catches it by surprise. Lying on the ground, Dan suddenly realizes this is his chance to counterattack. A wave of adrenaline hit, and he shakily got to his feet. He rushed forward, aiming the knife straight at the distracted magical beast. His knife sinks into the rabbit's back, and it falls to the ground, defeated. Daisy, exhausted to the limit after this trial, flopped onto the ground and whispered that they did it. Dan sighs with relief and sincerely thanks her for saving him from the monster. His heart is still pounding in his chest, but she assures him that she is fine and not injured. Suddenly it dawned on her, and she began rummaging in her bag. She quickly pulls out a bottle of elixir and, excitedly, orders Dan to apply it to the wound. Gratefully, he accepts the potion and sincerely thanks her for the timely help. He pours a shimmering liquid directly onto the deep bite wound on his arm. The gas heals instantly, and he moved his hand, amazed by its effectiveness. He enthusiastically praises her incredible magic of victory and wonderful talent at such a young age. Overflowing with joy from the praise, Daisy lets out a happy, slightly embarrassed laugh. The danger has receded. Dan stroked her head and suggested searching for food again. He drops to his knees and gathers herbs, while she stands nearby and quietly agrees with his plan. They work calmly, and Daisy softly hums, filling the bucket with various herbs. They have gathered a considerable pile of magical and healing herbs for her alchemy. Later, they returned home and headed to the grand main entrance of the manor. That evening, the whole family gathered on the veranda at the festive table to celebrate together. They serve a lavish dish with flair steaming, disgusting rabbit steak. Daisy's eyes sparkled with delight as she was about to taste that delicious-looking dish. Her brother, glancing at the luxurious feast, could not resist and asked on what occasion such a celebration was held. Their sister Rose recounts the terrifying events of that day, showing Daisy's bravery. Her brother froze in shock when he learned that she now knows how to use wind magic. Daisy admits that she was in such despair that she herself does not remember how she did it. Her brother says with admiration how incredible it is that she managed to do it without any experience. Another brother encouraged her, saying that training will only make her better. Daisy turned to her father, her voice becoming serious. She needs to talk about something important. Her father, enjoying the food, asked her what she wanted to talk about. With a serious expression, she asked if she could begin magic training. He hesitates, as if saying that she is still too young to rush. Her sister Rose interrupted, insisting that it would not hurt her to learn self-defense. Rose adds that it would be useful for her to gather materials herself. Her father acknowledges it. She said a very apt thing. With a determined look, he officially allows her to join the classes. Daisy's face lit up with genuine joy, and she exclaimed at the pleasant news. Rose tells her to contact Yuria tomorrow. Her status screen will then officially update. The next morning, the cheerful chamomile hums to herself and her little garden. She surveys the field, noticing the healing and magical grass she planted herself. She also checks on the newly transplanted herbs, even the eternal grass. She says the transplantation went well and the plants are healthy. She plans to fertilize them to grow high-quality seeds and the best ingredients. While she plans how to proceed in the garden, a sudden rustle instantly grabs her attention. She pulls out a pocket watch and suddenly realizes it's time for her lessons. With new determination, she declares she will do everything possible while Dessa is away. She approaches the open training ground, where huge wooden log targets tower. Few more children have already gathered near the instructor Yuria. Daisy and another student happily greet their teacher Yuria-sensei. Daisy politely says that from today she will be under Yuria's care. Yuria, a former court sorceress, smiles and responds to their warm greeting. She ordered her other students, Remus and Dahlia, to repeat yesterday's lesson. And Yuria encouragingly pats Daisy on the shoulder, officially welcoming her to the classes. While they were walking, Yuria noticed that she heard Daisy is already practicing alchemy. Daisy proudly confirms this with her new permit for magical training. Yuria beamed with joy, certain that this training will help her in alchemy studies. Daisy asks with interest if her magic lessons will really help her in alchemy. Yuria decisively says that they will, explaining that they will start with proper magic control. The instructor explained that training subjects, just like brewing potions, requires magical power. She says that learning to control magic will greatly expand a person's alchemical abilities. The teacher quietly asked her young student, "Do you feel any magic within yourself?" The sensei gently touches her stomach, lightly tapping to show the place where the girl should feel it. The student recalls the same sensation that arises when she casts the Windblade spell. The diagram shows how magic flares in the core and pulses throughout the body. She herself said how much magic moves is decided only by her. The sensei encouragingly tells her, "Try to spin the magical power in your stomach." The young girl, full of determination, agrees and prepares to give everything she has. She gathers her will into a fist, repeating that she only needs to spin the power inside her. Closing her eyes, she releases a powerful, uncontrolled whirl of magical energy. The teacher is completely shocked by the incredible power the student displays. Close-up of the girl's eye emphasizes a sudden, incredibly powerful burst of magic. Completely exhausted, the student whispered to the teacher that she could not even move. The sensei calmly notes that her student overdid it a bit with enthusiasm. Seeing that she is completely drained, the teacher thoughtfully decides what to do next. Seeing that only a thin spark of energy remains, she decides that they first need to practice relying on magic. The instructor asked her to recall the feeling of using her spell, Wind Blade. To help her, the sensei offers to give her a small magical boost. He gently touches the girl's stomach, transferring some magic there. The student lets out a gasp of surprise when she suddenly feels a surge of energy. She exclaims excitedly that she feels magical power moving inside her. Her teacher asks if she now understands what it is like to feel power inside. The student is instructed not to forget this feeling. She will soon learn to control it. Later, we see how the children enthusiastically practice their magical skills on an open training ground. In the nearby forest, a powerful explosion thundered, and the instructor was very alarmed by this. Another student releases a powerful gust of wind magic that instantly destroys the target. Smoke is billowing from the forest, a clear sign that the training has turned into chaos. A girl named Daisy is breathing heavily, completely exhausted after practice. The teacher praises her, sincerely admiring her noticeable progress and the wonderful joy it brings. With a radiant smile, Daisy sincerely thanks her teacher for the lesson. She confidently states that she can now correctly cast her spelled wind blade. Suddenly, the world around seems to sharply tell their powers are failing. She sways unsteadily, and her gaze slowly blurs from complete exhaustion. When her name is last called, she falls to the ground, unconscious. From afar, her teacher and classmate are seen rushing towards her. The scene shifts from the training ground to a quiet, peaceful sky. Now the setting is inside a house, a quiet refuge for rest and recovery. A hand gently rested on a soft surface, as if hinting at a state of calm. Daisy quietly whispers, slowly waking from sleep. A gentle voice softly asks her, "Are you already awake?" Suddenly Daisy jumped up and, frightened, realized she had been resting on the teacher's lap. Confused, she does not understand what she is doing here, bewildered after fainting. Her teacher calmly explains that she had used up all her magic and fainted. Daisy processes what she heard and finally understands what happened to her on the field. A message suddenly appears on the status screen: her magical power has risen to 183. She says in shock that her magic maximum this morning was only 180. A thoughtful expression flashed across her face. She wondered if her limit grows after use. She looks intently at her mother, who quietly asks, "What happened?" A voice full of distrust came from behind the door. "Is it true?" Daisy's father considers her hypothesis. Supposedly Max's magic can be increased by exhausting it. He enthusiastically announced a new training program for children. Children trained until all their magic meters showed 0. They cast spells with wild energy, striving to bring the magic to complete exhaustion. Then they are gently laid in bed to rest and regain strength. The next morning came, as if promising to finally show the results of their experiment. Children excitedly report that their magical power jumped by 2 or 3 points. Her father proudly strokes Daisy's head and praises her for the great discovery. He decisively announced that from now on they will exhaust their magic before bedtime. This will become their new habit. Daisy feels that she has finally developed a talent for controlling magic, and she is ready for a new challenge. Scene shifts to her alchemical workshop, a small round building. She announces that she is going to make a mana potio, pouring magic directly into her hand. Her ingredients are simple fresh mage herbs and magical grass in water. She reveals the potion requires one more crucial ingredient. It is a genuine magical crystal of the highest quality, a gift from her father. She begins the process, slowly stirring the mixture over a quiet flame. Reading the book, she suddenly notices the crystal must be used as a catalyst. Deeply focused, she prepares to weave the magic, channeling it through her hands. The crystal in the glass suddenly glowed ominously and began to crack fiercely. A chaotic explosion burst from the flask, and Daisy was thrown backward, shocked. On the floor, she admits that she was shocked, while the maid rushes to check on her. Her mother watches everything and instantly understands the crystal is overloaded with power. She explains that the use of external magic causes a repulsive reaction and an explosion. Daisy is stunned. She frankly admits that she did not even guess that this would happen. Her mother warns her, "Be more careful, you could have been injured." Suddenly, Daisy has an idea: she must extract magic from the crystal. Her mother encouragingly patted her and said, "Next time watch out for explosions." On the second attempt, she directs her will to the magic inside the crystal. She carefully holds the flask, fully focused on the inner power of the gemstone. She exclaims joyfully as magical power begins to seep from the crystal. Next, she carefully stirs the mixture, leading the alchemical reaction. Liquid swirls in the flask, the magic filling the potion. A light poof, a sign that the process has successfully and stably completed. In the status window, confirmation of her success is visible. A high-quality potion is ready. She carefully pours the shimmering blue liquid into a small flask. Holding the finished item high above her head, she triumphantly exclaims about her success. Incredibly, she created a potion on the first try that increased efficiency by 15 times. The maid excitedly wonders how happy Daisy's father will be about her creation. Scene shifts again outside to the workshop. As if on command, her father appeared and opened the door to the building. He warmly greets his daughter and asks what she is doing. He says he heard from Kate about her new product. Daisy proudly demonstrates her high-quality mono potion and enthusiastically explains how effective it is. Her father is simply stunned by her incredible achievement. He playfully tousled her hair and smiled. Even the mage department couldn't have done anything better. He notices they only have ordinary mono potions in stock. Holding the vial, he thought that many people would want such an effective potion. He added that it was also convenient, he would have to drink less. A light bulb flashes above Daisy's head. She suddenly understands what advantage this gives in organization. Father proudly presses his little bottle of potion to hers, proud of his 5-year-old daughter's cleverness. The blonde man smiles proudly and tells his daughter that soon she will become a final chemist. Filled with determination, the girl inspiredly promises to do everything possible. Then her father said he had only one question for his talented young alchemist. He asked if she could regularly make these potions. Thoughtfully, she explains that she will probably be able to make them once a week, as soon as she gathers the ingredients. The man considers what she is capable of at work, and his face becomes serious and thoughtful. Suddenly and decisively, he announces that tomorrow he will go to negotiate the sale of her potions. Next morning came the day of important negotiations. The man returns home completely depressed and announces his arrival in a tired voice. With a heavy heart, he began to explain to the worried woman how that unsuccessful meeting ended. In a flashback, he recalls his conversation with the Minister of War about the mana elixirs. The minister clearly told him, only products made by the Department of Mages are accepted. He understood he would have to temporarily postpone plans to sell potions. Daisy peeked through the door, and sadness from the bad news froze on her face. The father bitterly says that everything could have been different if they had other, better elixirs. A voice bursts in from the threshold, interrupts him, and says that there really are still potions. Daisy proudly demonstrates the new potion. Its quality is 1.5 times higher than usual. His hope instantly revived when he eagerly grabbed the new bottle from her. He asked if she could also make these new potions weekly. He declared that the next day he would go again to negotiate with the Ministry of War. She suspiciously asks whether the officials will believe this strangely timely novelty. He agrees and thoughtfully asks himself who would believe such a ridiculous story. Then the woman cleverly smiled and suggested a simple solution: take Daisy with you. She insists that if the producer were nearby, his words would become incredibly convincing. Nodding that her logic makes sense, he turns and asks Daisy if she wants to go with them. Nervous Daisy, holding her breath, agrees, and this opens the way to her first ever visit to the royal castle. The next morning, tense preparations begin for the important meeting at the castle. The maid gently helps Daisy put on a new festive dress, perfectly suited for the occasion. Skillful hands deftly adjusted the sash, completing the young lady's outfit. As soon as Daisy was groomed and became a true beauty, she joyfully thanks her maid Kate for the help. She carefully places the test tubes with samples into a small handbag for the presentation. With the samples already packed and ready, she confirms that she is prepared for the meeting. Clenching her fists, she decided to do everything she could to help her father. The rhythmic clatter of the carriage wheels and their important journey begins. During the journey, Daisy eagerly looked out the window, enchanted by the passing landscapes. Soon they found themselves before a majestic and impressive royal castle. Its architecture was breathtaking. Daisy was completely overwhelmed. She exclaimed upon seeing how huge the building was up close. Her father gently led her forward, saying that their goal was right here. They walked hand in hand down a long night corridor to the meeting room. The guard warmly greeted her father, recognizing him as a former deputy mage of the magical forces. The guard politely pointed them to the necessary door where the meeting awaited them. When they entered the room where stern officials sat, the father politely announced their arrival. A man with long blonde hair and a serious expression watched their entrance. An old bearded official with a distrustful look also closely observed as they entered. Daisy felt a wave of intimidation upon seeing the serious faces of the gathered soldiers. The high-ranking official initially addresses the father by name, then asks about the little girl. He proudly introduces Daisy as his daughter, and more importantly as a potion master. The officials whisper among themselves, not believing that this tiny girl is the true creator. The bearded man snorted and directly asked the former deputy mage if this was a joke. The Minister of Finance calmly intervenes, gently asking everyone to calm down and invites them to sit. The assistant politely pulls out a high-backed checkered chair for the young lady. Daisy sits in her place, and at the large table she looks small and somewhat out of place. She politely asked the gathered men if she could begin her presentation. The Minister of War agreed, noting that the young lady has impressive maturity. Daisy rustles in her bag, preparing to show her alchemical samples. With a soft roll, she places several vials on the polished table. She smiles and says that she brought mana potions, high potions, and standard potions. Daisy says with a smile that each of her potions is 1.5 times more powerful than usual. Gathered men whisper among themselves, pondering the bold words of the young girls. The Minister of War, having listened to everything, asked for permission to inspect and evaluate those items. Worried Daisy quickly gives her full consent. Let the evaluation begin. The minister called a name. A man named Heinrich approached the table. The mysterious master appraiser steps forward and examines 3 samples of the potion. The minister also orders the evaluator to make sure that the young lady is the true creator. Daisy is stunned to realize that this man also has the ability to evaluate. He can see the creators. The masterpiker takes the vials. It's time to start checking their original properties. Suddenly, their meeting is interrupted by the loud sound of the front doors opening. The ministers froze in shock. They recognize the arrival of His Majesty, the king. The king enters, waves his hand amicably, and cheerfully asks everyone to remain in their seats. Sitting at the head of the table, he asked, "What's new with the presentation?" The minister says that the samples proposed by the young ladies are currently being evaluated. The king, with a surprised look, seems not to believe. Is this young lady really an alchemist? Unfazed, Daisy made a flawless curtsy and introduced herself to the king. His Majesty is clearly impressed, enthusiastically praising the polite young lady for her manners. He notices her impeccable manners and excitedly says that she is much more well-behaved than his own noisy little son. The king then asked Heinrich if there were already evaluation results. Heinrich confirms that these 3 samples indeed have power 15 times greater than usual. Then he announces the decisive news. The creator, without any doubt, is Miss Daisy. Even the official couldn't hold back. He noted her exceptional talent, especially for a 5-year-old. The king thoughtfully considers the situation and suggests negotiating a purchase. The representative of the magic department passionately expressed a desire to purchase mana potions for dangerous missions. Likewise, the Night Squad says they also want to get a few potions. The king turns to Daisy and asks if she can produce them in large quantities and deliver regularly. She explains that she grows the materials on her own fields, so supplies are always available. He correctly guesses that this must be the reason for their high quality. She says directly she could not find good quality materials in the city. Daisy believes her success is due to fresh, nutrient-rich materials. The king enthusiastically praises her for a clear, logical explanation that grew from her advanced thinking. He sincerely notes that her high ambitions and sharp mind are no less worthy of praise than her technical skill. With Heinrich's support, the king officially approves the purchase of her potions. The finance minister agreed with the decision and is already preparing a detailed contract. Her father cannot contain his joy at this news and sincerely congratulates Daisy on her incredible success. The king again turns his gaze to the young alchemist, Lady Daisy. For her incredible passion and how she has blossomed, he offers her a personal reward. The father quietly leans toward her and reminds her not to respond rudely. Daisy modestly asks for a more advanced alchemy textbook to continue her studies. The king gladly granted her request, saying it would benefit the backward alchemy in the country. Overjoyed, Daisy promises to use the new book, Horizon Shining, very carefully. Their important matter in the great royal castle was finally successfully completed. Daisy and her father set off on the road. Their mission turned out to be a complete triumph. Sitting in the carriage, Daisy's father sighed with relief and reported that the purchase was approved. Inside, Daisy energetically declares that as soon as they get home, Ish will immediately start preparing. Father agrees with a smile as the carriage rattles along the road. Unrolling the scroll, Daisy fell silent. The prices for her various potions were simply staggering. She raises her gaze and asks her father if this payment is not too generous. He enthusiastically assures that the price is about 3 times higher than the usual market price. Daisy jumped up in surprise. Seeing the weekly income, she realized she would earn a gold coin. Father explains such a high price is because great expectations are placed on her. She dreamily calculates that this income will finally allow her to buy the centrifuge she read about. Daisy firmly says that she will continue to work with all her might while the carriage rolls forward. From the window, her attention was suddenly caught by something on the street. A young boy with a heavy box in his hands looks at them and quietly remarks that they have a noble privilege. He looked down and reminded himself he must hurry with the delivery. Walking down the crowded street, he constantly fears that the boss will soon shout at him. Scene changes, a quiet morning, birds gently chirping near the house. Daisy's eyes slowly opened. She was gradually waking up after a peaceful sleep. She sits up in bed, stretching long and contentedly. Close-up shows a decorative calendar quietly lying on her dresser in the bedroom. Having gotten up, Daisy joyfully realizes that today is her birthday. Suddenly, a status appears on the screen. She watches and wonders, will something unusual happen? Her eyes widen with surprise when she notices that she has gained new skills. She touches her chin and curiously notices that secrecy and gifts have been added to her status. She seems glued with her eyes to the caress of the Green King of the Fae in the gifts section. She wonders if it refers to those magical winged creatures from fairy tales. Deciding to be cautious, she chooses to hide her skill of evaluation by disguising it. Near her workshop, Daisy pushes a small cart with a barrel. She strains and complains that her expanded field now requires a lot of water. Sighing, she dreamily thinks whether water magic would ease her housework. She reminds herself to hone her magic, and at that very moment her attention is caught by a rustle. Peeking through the leaves, she sees a tiny winged girl chirping on a branch. Another tiny figure is peacefully dozing on a large, cozy leaf. A third fairy-like creature is drinking a single drop of dew from another leaf. Daisy's face became a mask of pure shock. She confusedly tries to understand what is happening. One of the tiny creatures notices her and joyfully calls her by name. The fairy with pigtails suddenly flew up and hissed angrily that it took her way too long to notice. Confused, Daisy shyly asks who they are when one of them sits on her head. The fairy with braids looks angrily and points to the clearing. Of course, they are green fairies. Daisy froze in amazement. She can hardly believe that fairies really exist. Hiram called her a silly girl and said that all this time he was helping her. She eagerly explains that with their magic they pull out weeds and drive away insects. Suddenly Daisy realized she had never dealt with weeds or pests. The fairy on her head says that they have been here since childhood. One of the fairies gently touched Daisy's hand to get her attention. The fairy with braids adds that they also helped her when she was gathering fruit. In the memory, Daisy is seen desperately casting a wind blade spell. The fairy finally admitted she was boosting her magic because she lacked her own skills. Daisy gasped with admiration. She felt like she had become the main heroine of some story. Another fairy said that one of them complained to the Fairy King about her complete helplessness. Daisy associates their presence with the fact that the Green Fairy King is favorable to her status. She clenches her fist, feeling that her theory must be correct. Filled with gratitude, she bows deeply and sincerely thanks them for all the help. She raises her eyes and asks with trepidation how she can repay them for their kindness. The fairy with braids thoughtfully ponders the question, and a smile plays on her face. One fairy blurted out that she loves her nutritious drinks and then fell silent. The fairy with pigtails suddenly burst with an idea and confessed that she also adores sweets. Daisy asks if they mean those additives that she mixes into the water for the field. Suddenly the fairy remembers today is actually Daisy's birthday. Flying with excitement, she announces that they have a gift and asks to be handed the basket. Surprised, Aze agrees and quickly grabs her basket from the neighboring cart. The fairy urges her persistently hurry, and they lead her deep into the forest. Daisy follows them among the trees, carefully stepping along the forest path. The fairy majestically waves her hand, proudly extending her special gift to her. The gift is a large bush covered with ripe, shiny blackberries. Daisy exclaims with delight, and the fairy boasts about her amazing find. She marvels with delight that so many blackberries have grown so close to her house. She is still stunned. Not a single bird dared to eat any of them. The fairies explain that it is because they have been watching over this garden bed all the time. With a bright smile, Daisy squeezes her fairy's hand and thanks them all. The fairy cheerfully offers to help her gather the tasty berries. A shot of a bush weighed down with berries, it is ready for picking. Daisy returns home and joyfully exclaims that she brought a bunch of blackberries. Her mother was delighted and suggested making a dessert from them. Then her mother suddenly remembered. A messenger from the palace brought her a package. The shot takes us into Daisy's laboratory. A mysterious parcel was left here. Daisy strains with all her might to lift the unexpectedly heavy package onto the table. She impatiently tears the wrapping paper, wondering what is inside. She recognizes the content, the very book she asked His Majesty for. She pulls out a 3-volume series, 3 books that introduce the basics of alchemy. The fourth, completely unexpected book is titled about how to cook incredibly delicious food with alchemy. She notices with embarrassment that she did not ask for this, but still finds it interesting. Flipping through the pages, she comes across a recipe for soft bread, which seems very simple. She thinks that she always considered bread as something dry and hard. Just the word soft bread, and her mouth waters in anticipation. Suddenly, a fairy jumped out right behind her. She almost fainted from fright. Recovering from the scare, Daisy says to the fairy, "I scared you." The fairy looks over her shoulder and asks, "Are you going to bake bread?" Daisy confidently says that it is possible thanks to alchemy, and the fairy gladly offers help. Daisy gladly agrees, deciding that she should start right now. She reads the recipe and stops at the words, "The first step is to prepare the yeast." The fairy suggests picking blackberries needed for the recipe. Instead, Daisy entrusts her to bring honey from the kitchen. Daisy heads to her greenhouse, and the fairy rises into the sky and sets off on its mission. The fairy sways in the air, carefully carrying a small pot of honey. And on the screen, the judges talk about delicious, select honey gathered from various wildflowers. The second check did not deceive. The quality is excellent, the blackberries are perfectly right. Daisy opens the glass jar with a clear click, ready to start the alchemical process. She carefully pours water into the blackberries and only 1 drop of honey. Closing the lid, she explains, they will ferment this using alchemy. She begins gently shaking the jar, relying on her refined alchemical skills. And the inspection showed that the mixture is low-quality yeast, which is about to start fermenting. Holding a jar with bubbles, Daisy excitedly explains that it is fermenting properly and contains yeast. The test confirms she managed to make good, quality yeast, which she proudly shows. When her creation is ready, she announces the final step to add it to the dough. In the kitchen, a girl named Kate is bustling, preparing to bake. Daisy approaches the maid with a smile, hoping to ask her about the bread. Turning away from her work, Kate politely addresses the lady, "How can I help you?" The young alchemist asked with curiosity if Kate had already started baking bread. With a flourish, she shows her jar and asks Kate to pour special yeast into it. Kate looks at that strange, bubbly mass, confused. She does not understand what this substance really is. Daisy proudly says it is a special ingredient she created herself for soft bread. Kate, a bit skeptical but intrigued by this new idea, suggests doing it together. Friend explains that first of all they need dough. Together they press their palms into the dough, faces focused. Fully risen dough lies on the table, a perfect, huge, and smooth mound. Daisy wonders if her skill in judging now gives her useful baking tips. Kate admits in surprise she has never seen the dough rise like this. Dividing the dough, Kate explains that it will be baked after it rests. They both watched excitedly the perfectly baked golden brown buns. Kate lifted the baking tray and enthusiastically noted how much they grew during baking. Daisy gazes mesmerized at the warm, fresh bread, her mouth watering in anticipation. Placing the buns in a basket, Kate cheerfully suggests tasting them. Without hesitation, Daisy and Kate both bit into a large piece of fresh bread. The incredible taste and texture made Daisy's eyes widen with pure delight. She exclaims that this is the tastiest and softest bread she has ever eaten. The tiny fairy gently strokes the hair on her head and asks her for a spindle. Daisy agrees to leave the yeast and asks Kate to teach her how to make it. The scene shifts to the city market, buzzing with noise on a bright sunny day. Kate happily tells how soft bread became a real hit in her family. Daisy reads a book, her heart tightens. There is so much work that she desperately needs an assistant. Her thoughts are abruptly interrupted by an angry man who shoots a little boy on the spot. The boy on the ground mumbles about the lousy job of his former master. As soon as Daisy heard him mention poor quality, her attention instantly focused. She activated the skill assessment and her suspicion was confirmed. The boy really has this ability. The young alchemist froze in shock. Right under her nose was a person with appraisal. Realizing she was extremely lucky, she swiftly rushed to the boy, leaving Kate behind. She suddenly grabbed Marcus by the hand and called out loudly. The boy got scared. Marcus jolts in, surprised. What kind of prank is this? And at that moment she grabs him. Sharply striking the table with her palms to emphasize her words, she offered the boy to become her assistant. She calls herself Daisy, an alchemist, hoping to attract his attention. Marcus was skeptical. His stomach growled loudly, but he skillfully controlled his hunger. He shyly admits that he was just fired and hasn't had breakfast yet. Daisy listens to his trouble, her face thoughtful and full of sympathy. She asked Kate if the nearest restaurant was open, but apparently it was closed. Without hesitation, she invites the hungry boy to her home for breakfast. Marcus froze at the unexpected offer and her firm grip on his hand. She begins to lead him away, and surprised Kate calls after them. The maid hurriedly catches up, calling to her lady, "Wait for me." Daisy bursts into the house and loudly calls for her mother. She explains to her mother in a passionate voice that she wants to hire the boys as assistants. Daisy adds that he was just fired from his job and he is terribly hungry now. Her mother calmly agrees and only asks that she be properly introduced to him later. The young alchemist agrees and leads the boy to another part of the house. They approach. Ahead rises a separate building with a large curved glass roof. He proudly shows her well-equipped laboratory to the surprised Marcus. The room breathed books, flasks, and various alchemical instruments. Marcus looks around in admiration, wondering if this young girl is really an influential person. Kate appears by the door and happily says that she brought soft bread. Marcus, stunned, took a bite and exclaimed that he had never eaten anything tastier. Daisy beams with pride, asks if he likes it, and says with a smile that it is delicious. The boy is amazed Alchemy can create such tasty bread. Then she shows him her high-quality potions, which she also knows how to create. Marcus exclaimed in amazement that he had never seen anything of such high quality. Daisy explains that she delivers various high-quality goods to other countries. The boy is impressed by her skill, especially since she is even younger than him. He modestly and shyly calls himself Marcus, a 7-year-old peasant. Daisy smiles warmly and says that she is 6 years old. Please meet him. And then she unexpectedly admits that she also has the ability to evaluate the same as his. Marcus understands everything but still cannot figure out where she gets such quality materials. With a cheerful smile, she calls the surprised boy to follow her outside. She proudly shows a field of bright plants and says that she grows everything here. Kneeling down, Marcus exclaims that all the herbs look simply wonderful in quality. He tells how in all his previous apprenticeships the herbs were always wilted. He explains that even market herbs are often damaged, and without Appraisal this is almost unnoticeable. Daisy confirms that is why she always uses her own ingredients. Marcus recalls bitterly how his parents always brushed off his concerns about quality. He concludes that's why they only produce miserable potions, and Daisy wholeheartedly understands his struggle. With a determined look, she directly offers him to come work for her. She promises that by working with her, he will learn to make truly quality potions. Daisy was stunned when Marcus questioned her right to hire him. He thanks her for the offer but doubts whether she can really hire him. She thoughtfully reflects on his words and realizes maybe she will have to consult her father. Later, Daisy sincerely explains to her father through the device the essence of what happened. Her father comes calmly and agrees to take Marcus as a servant in their chambers. Marcus beams with joy he eagerly and officially accepts this position. Father assures that this agreement will leave his parents no reason for complaints. He asked Marcus to definitely help Daisy, she was already carrying everything herself. His voice becomes heavy when he inquires about the grim circumstances of the boy. Marcus explains that his father died and his mother is too ill to work. He is the sole breadwinner for his mother and younger brothers and sisters. Doctors told him that for his mother's recovery, especially strong potion is needed. Hearing the story, the father understood there is no time. He instantly rushed to the cabinet and pulled out a vial with a powerful potion. He handed the potion to the stunned boy and whispered for him to take it. Father gently explains that Mark can pay him little by little working. Marcus hesitates, unsure if he should accept something so valuable. Father reassures him, your hard work for the family is enough to earn my trust. Gratitude and relief so overwhelmed the little boy that tears welled up in his eyes. Father orders him to go home, while he himself stays to sort through the papers. Daisy and Kate froze in the doorway, watching as the carriage approached the house. She confidently told her father that she herself would pay Marcus's salary. The fair-haired man gently smiles, reviewing the clipboard in the office. He tenderly strokes his daughter Daisy's head, explaining that it is his obvious duty. Ignoring her worries, he says that this new expense is a wise investment in the future. 2 days later, a cheerful morning greeting rang out from the great house. The man asked Marcus about his mother, who gratefully reports that she now feels well. Before leaving, Marcus shyly hands over a letter from his mother. The young boy politely bowed his head, apologized, and left. The man reads the letter. It contains a sincere thank you and a modest request. Quietly swears by all means to fulfill the mother's wish. Later, he leads Marcus to the room and says that it is yours. The boy froze, looking at the hand he had never before had a room just for himself. The senior butler Sebastian solemnly introduced himself as Marcus's new mentor. He assures that he will teach the boy all the necessary manners. Sebastian suggests first to tidy Marcus up to improve his appearance. The scene moves to another corner of the house. There stands a large window. Daisy sits at her desk, immersed in quiet and deep thoughts. A tiny winged fairy flashed by, cheerfully asking what happened. Daisy beams and says that she has a new assistant. She will introduce him a little later. She admits that she doubts whether to ask him to take care of the field. Fairy casually suggests that she could just show him how. Daisy bitterly points to that huge pile of knowledge he still has to learn. She worries that teaching him everything at once will be too much for him. A mischievous spark of an idea flashed in the fairy's eyes. Leaning closer, she excitedly offers to teach Marcus herself. Daisy sadly reminds her that Marcus, unfortunately, does not see fairies. The fairy confidently states that she just needs to make him see her. Soon Marcus approaches Daisy's small workshop. He shouted loudly that lessons are over for today. Suddenly, a fairy appeared right in front of his face and called him by name. Frightened, he leans back and she mocks him, calling him a coward. In a calm voice, Daisy gently asks the confused boy to calm down. From the window, she shows the green fairies guarding her field. And she sets him a task to water the field twice a day. 2 fairies hovered over him and promise to train him very strictly. Marcus looks nervously and stammering reluctantly agrees. They immediately pull him to his feet, urging him to move. He protests, "Don't pull me so hard." With a drop of sweat on his face, he calls Daisy for help. She simply waves her hand joyfully and offers an encouraging word. The fairies incessantly scolded him for his sloppy and ineffective watering method. Someone says that he simply uses the skill of evaluation and directly asks the plants what they need. Daisy stands by the window and notices how the fairy is wildly happy. She decides that tomorrow they will have to listen to a lecture from her about their methods. The next day, strict instructions from the fairy came from the garden. Exhausted Marcus complains to Daisy about how harsh these fairies are. She gladly welcomed him in the laboratory and quietly said, "I was waiting for you." His gaze stops on a glass apparatus. He asks what it is. She explains that it is a device for making distilled water. She explains simply and insistently, pure water is the main and indispensable component of alchemy. His ignorance only confirms her suspicion that he has never had proper training. She unexpectedly says that she will teach him, and this offer stunned him. She reminds him, "You are her assistant, so this is your morning duty." He admits that he is nervous. He has never held such an instrument before. She reassures him, and he promises to do everything in his power. Daisy explains to him step by step, and he diligently takes notes. Through the large workshop window, it is visible how they work side by side. Pure, transparent drops of liquid splashed into the receiving flask. Marcus looked at the result with pride and realized that he had succeeded. His eyes shine with admiration as he understands this is alchemy. Inspired, he asks if he will ever be able to brew potions. Daisy confidently raises her thumb up and promises to teach him everything. They sealed their new partnership with an energetic handshake. Later, Marcus came across a unique book about how to cook food using alchemy. He, with a note of admiration in his voice, asked Daisy where she got such an unheard-of tome. She explains it is a bonus from His Majesty the King. Marcus is impressed and speaks with admiration about the royal collection of rare books. He thought with a slight smile, maybe the king himself likes to cook. Daisy ponders perhaps he is really right. That night the father asked if she wanted the king to taste her bread. He extends the book proof that the king is interested in cooking. Father smiles and agrees, maybe it really is a very good idea. Colleague doubts isn't the bread itself too simple and suggests. Father confidently disagreed with her cautious assessment. He says that the king's 2 little children will like this bread. Colleagues worry about Vaynich, and she agrees that it is a wonderful plan. He promises to arrange with the royal court and set up a schedule for her. Next day, a new challenge came to the workshop. Marcus works tensely, but his thoughts are clearly somewhere far away. Daisy, overcome with boredom, almost fell off the chair. She rights herself and asks him why he is so worried. He admits that he cannot plan the performance before the king. He recalls the prince is still very young. He thinks that the child will definitely prefer something sweet. Daisy perked up and decided to liven up the atmosphere for the prince a bit. He remembered how she made jam and offered it as a sweet addition. Marcus's face lit up at how appetizing it sounded. Daisy feels that just spreading jam on bread is a bit too little. Marcus exclaims a brilliant idea to fill the bread with jam. Daisy is delighted with this idea, imagining a surprise jam hidden inside. Marcus's mouth watered. He wants to try it right now. Energized, Daisy decides to invent other fillings besides jam. They move their new culinary project to the kitchen. The maid suddenly got the idea to put jam inside the bread. Daisy says that she is also thinking about other sweet fillings. Chambermaid admits that it had never occurred to her. She excitedly suggests trying all kinds of fillings. Soon she returns with 2 freshly baked buns with jam. She and Daisy both curiously bite a piece of the new creation. They thoughtfully chew, evaluating the result of their first experiment. May announced her verdict: the taste is bland and completely uninspired. Examining the freshly baked bun, Daisy notices that it is too dry and wants to make it moister. Thinking about a solution, she flips through an alchemy book in search of a clue. Soon her gaze stopped on a recipe that seemed incredibly delicious to her. She reads about Chantilly cream, a luxurious, airy dessert that she really wants to try. Her enthusiasm instantly fades when she learns that the recipe requires a special device, a centrifuge. Putting aside this idea, she begins to look for other options, even pudding and custard cream. Then the group gathers for afternoon tea to eagerly taste their newest creations. Marcus bit enthusiastically and exclaimed that the bun tastes of strawberry jam. Daisy excitedly talks about her bonus, stuffed with blueberries and custard cream, which makes it juicy. The maid smiled and agreed the bread is not dry at all, perfectly suited for black tea. Daisy swallowed the tea and at that moment finished filling, getting rid of dryness, a perfect 2-in-1 solution. Finally, the day of their presentation in the magnificent royal castle arrived. A basket filled with special bread stands ready for the important meeting. In the castle room, Daisy and a man named Heinrich wait patiently. The door clicked. The king entered the room with a large retinue. Heinrich immediately stands up, humbly addressing the newcomer, "Your Majesty." The king smiled warmly and advised them to relax and not worry about formalities. Young Prince William, pulling his father's coat, asks where the soft bread is. The king gently stroked his son's head, reminding him to be more restrained. The queen apologizes and explains that William did not stop talking. He was talking about bread the whole time. Prince insists he wants to taste that new soft bun right away. Heinrich, a little nervous, asked His Majesty if he would like to start the tasting right now. King agrees but calls the armored guard named Heinrich to entrust him with a preliminary task. Guard in full armor glances at the basket with bread. He agrees without hesitation to become the taster and sincerely thanks His Majesty for such an honor. With a smile, the king apologizes for that inevitable formality. Heinrich agreed that ensuring the safety of the offering is an important matter. Then the king gives them permission to proceed with the tasting. Prince William impatiently reaches out to the basket and chooses the bun he wants. He is delighted by its texture and exclaims how incredibly soft it is. Biting off a huge piece with excitement, he squeezes the soft bread in his hands. His eyes sparkle with delight as he exclaims how tasty this bread is. He excitedly tells his father about their smooth cream inside, which greatly surprised the king. Little Princess Margaret gently tugs at her mother's dress, trying to get her attention. She quietly confesses that she herself wants to try that appetizing bread. Queen smiled warmly and promised to bring her a bun immediately. Princess gently bites a piece of the soft, round bread roll. Her face lit up with a radiant smile and she exclaimed, "How cute this is." The king notices that Margaret also loves them and calls their reactions fantastic. Daisy watches and feels her heart swell with joy. The children are enjoying her food. The king solemnly thanked Daisy and said that the soft bread was truly delicious. Then he asked if the books he had sent her really helped her in her research. Daisy beams sincerely confirmed that these books greatly helped her make significant progress in her work. "You're welcome," said the king. This was exactly what he hoped to hear. Emboldened, Daisy shyly asks if she may pose her question. She explains that in one of his books she read about a device called a centrifuge. The king, unfamiliar with this term, asked again, "What does this device do?" Daisy shows how it uses centrifugal force to separate materials, an important tool of alchemy. Her eyes sparkle as she reveals her dream to make Chantilly cream from it. The king laughed, joyful. He was so pleased to hear her speak about something so fitting for her age. He promises to order his subordinates to find one, and this incredibly delights Daisy. The prince sips his drink, while the father silently watches. The promise has already been made. The successful meeting ended in the magnificent royal castle under a clear, bright sky. Next day, a quiet, peaceful morning begins in Daisy's house. The fairy woke her up and exclaimed that a letter from the king had arrived. Fairy sails inquisitively as if asking, "What is written in the letter?" In the letter, stunning news: the royal family wants to see this bread on their table. The fairy, drooling a little, says that it is quite natural after all, it is so tasty. Daisy instantly grabs planning the recipe and the way to deliver the yeast to the castle. After a successful delivery, she joyfully celebrates her 7th birthday in her workshop. Her brother Bersin joyfully exclaimed that a birthday gift had arrived from the king. The gift turned out to be a magnificent and intricate centrifuge. Daisy is wildly happy. She could not even imagine receiving such a wonderful gift. She excitedly declares that she can finally make Chantilly cream, and tomorrow she needs to buy the ingredients. In the formidable royal castle, a tense atmosphere arises. The knight commander confidently walked through the house and asked if the war minister was here. His assistant confirms the minister is currently in his office. The subordinate approached, handed over the papers, and dryly reported to the war minister, a report from the patrol unit. The report speaks of strange, disturbing behavior of monsters south of the capital, and this could become a real threat. The minister decides countermeasures must be prepared to prevent mass panic. The commander quietly gives the order, discreetly strengthen the capital's defenses. The minister also suggests calling 2 powerful adventurers, Laisha and Mark. He clarifies if it comes to battle, their help may be needed. He gazes out the window and thinks anxiously, is this a sign that worse is ahead? Meanwhile, Daisy and her brother assembled a new centrifuge. A dark, ominous forest emerges in a cloud of thought, dispelling the bad premonition. In the ominous forest, the sounds of a heavy fall and rustling spread. In the darkness, a pair of glowing eyes emerge nearby. A low growl is heard. The scene shifts us to a bustling but calm market in the city. The maid explains to Daisy that for Chantilly cream, they only need fresh milk. Daisy energetically points to the nearby shop and says it is the best place to go. As she walks, Daisy notices that the city seems unusually noisy. She also feels that there are way too many soldiers around. Her brother waved it off, saying it's just regular training and he hopes it's nothing serious. They arrive at the dairy shop and Daisy asks for the freshest, richest milk. The saleswoman smiles warmly and is ready to gladly serve her customers. She recommends thick red cow's milk and takes out a milk can. Just as Daisy was about to confirm the purchase, suddenly a loud bang sounded and she flinched. The entire store froze. Everyone stood as if rooted to the spot, not understanding where this noise suddenly came from. The night person shouts, "Evacuate," because a magical beast is attacking us. The saleswoman apologizes, says she must close up, and insists that everyone evacuate immediately. The maid sharply decides that they must immediately return to their estate to prepare for evacuation. The group agrees and quickly rushes out of the shop. They return to their large, magnificent estate. The girls slap Daisy to quickly pack her things while she prepared the carriage. Daisy hurries to her workshop in a separate round building. Inside, she begins packing her personal belongings into a bag. Her gaze fell on a large box standing on the floor. Suddenly, she remembers that she still hasn't delivered the week's supply of potions. Realizing that the capital needs potions for the battle, she makes a decision. Daisy feels that the upcoming battle will bring many wounded, and she is worried that the supplies will not be enough. With firm determination, her tiny hand grips the handle of the potion box. Burning resolve flashed across her face as she decided to help. Her brother Burston shouted that the evacuation wagon had arrived for her. Finding the room completely empty, he called out her name, confused and anxious. And he notices a hastily written note left on her desk. Meanwhile, Daisy is already rushing through the city streets, clutching her potion case. She is overwhelmed with anxiety for her father, as an encounter with a whole horde is an unpredictable threat. She gathered her courage and declared firmly that as an alchemist she has the power to save lives. The scene shifts to the southern city gates, where a desperate battle is already raging. Lord Henry roared that the monsters had broken through the gates and ordered them to be completely exterminated. The enraged wolf-like beast lunges at the knight, who suddenly cries out in horror. Another soldier bravely thrusts a spear into another monster, fighting back. Henry helps the wounded soldier to his feet, and he sincerely thanks him. He encourages his men, ordering them to coordinate attacks and actions of the combat groups. At his signal, the knights smoothly surrounded and, combining efforts, successfully finished off one of the monsters. A whirlwind of shining blades and even more monsters fall, cut with deadly precision. Suddenly, two new figures burst onto the scene with incredible speed. Letitia and Mark, two extremely powerful adventurers, join the desperate battle for the city. The soldier watches their skill with admiration and compares it to the hard struggle of his squad. Mark warned Lydia about the approaching monster, and she resolutely said, "Do not let it escape." Letitia is about to bring down this creature with one powerful, smooth sword strike. She freezes in amazement as the beast suddenly changes direction in the middle of its charge. The monster breaks away from the center of the clash and rushes to the edge of the battlefield. At that very moment, a chamomile appears on the chaotic battlefield, slowly passing through the frame. The lady screams a warning, horrified. The child is standing right in the path of the monster. Mark rushed at the beast, intercepted it, and stabbed it with a knife just before it reached the frightened Daisy. He gently asks if she is okay, and she can barely whisper a quiet thank you. Letty ran up angry, demanding to know why Daisy is here and why she has to evacuate. Mark softly asks the lady not to be so harsh with the little child. She retorted that such a dangerous, blood-soaked battlefield is no place for a young girl. Daisy opens a case and loudly says that she is an alchemist providing crucial support from the rear. Lydia looks at her with obvious skepticism. She does not believe that she is truly support. She loudly states that they are on the front line and orders Daisy to step back. Lydia sternly warns, "Stay away from the gates and run if necessary." Mark sincerely praises her bravery and gently advises not to exhaust herself. He gently strokes her head and kindly tells the little lady not to tense up. Waving goodbye, the two adventurers turned around and returned to the thick of the battle. Daisy remains standing alone near the dangerous edge of the battle. On the city walls, a soldier vigilantly guards what remains. The soldier reports in a firm voice to Lord Henry that the first wave has been successfully destroyed. He sternly orders his men to continue cleaning up and to remain extremely vigilant. A squad of mages reports the main stash near the gates has completely disappeared. Deputy captain confirmed to his men the horde suddenly vanished. He warns them, be on alert, the reason for the attack is still unknown. Suddenly, a soldier shouted, reporting movement in the distant forest ahead. The vice captain raises a spyglass to his eye to take a closer look. Through the lens, he sees a sharp, ominous gleam of light bursting from the forest. Understanding the danger, the commander shouted an order in panic, cover the gates with protective magic. His order was late, the massive city gates exploded inward. The shockwave knocks soldiers and commanders off their feet, throwing everything into complete chaos. And the knight stumbles among the ruins, as if asking itself what just happened. He looks, not believing his eyes, at the completely destroyed and crumbling city gates. Through the smoke, Daisy sees a colossal black hand emerging from the breach. Smoke cleared, and before their eyes stood a gigantic horned monster, a true horror. Lord Henry realizes that this one huge creature was the real cause of the horde. The monster let out a deafening roar, and people scattered in absolute terror. Henry prepares a powerful spell, but the behemoth counterattacks before he can utter it. The red-haired commander intercepts a powerful explosion with his flaming sword. Henry orders the guards to retreat and immediately carry out all the wounded. The commander raised his voice, encouraged the mages, and ordered, "Do everything you can to stop this monster." The sorceress releases an icy column directly at the powerful legs of the monster. The ice wrapped around the giant's leg, momentarily immobilizing the colossal creature. The monster growls with rage, its face full of contempt for their efforts. Seeing the breakthrough, Henry orders all the knights to advance and attack. With extraordinary strength, the monster effortlessly breaks the ice that restrained it. The shockwave from the shattered ice hit so hard that Henry was thrown back and staggered. The commander desperately shouts to the mages, ordering them not to stop summoning their icy pillars. The knights grab debris and trash and rush up the giant hand of the creature. Henry jumped high, preparing to deliver a powerful sword strike in the air. He slashes the monster's neck, and the soldier below held his breath, wondering if the strike succeeded. The blade buzzes in vain against the impossibly strong, armored skin of the creature. The giant glanced back indifferently. The powerful direct attack did not even touch him. With one contemptuous and devastating blow, it throws the captain back. The massively armored knight tank rushes to help like the fallen captain. He manages to intercept the devastating blow with his huge turret shield. The force was too great, and the tank knight flew back with a cry of pain. The commander suddenly realized that their swords were useless against some protective barrier. He sharply orders the healers to retreat and prioritize caring for the numerous wounded knights. The enraged giant lets out another fierce, deafening, earth-shaking roar. Daisy silently and anxiously watches from behind a column as chaos unfolds. A shockwave from the roar knocks another heavily armored knight to the ground. A female soldier urgently calls someone, "Help, knight is coming." Daisy runs out of cover, shouting that she has a potion that can help. She kneels beside the wounded knight, who is fighting for every breath in his helmet. She examines his severe wound and decides that the best thing is to apply the potion directly to it. With a determined look in her eyes, she uncorks one of the potion vials. She notices that it is a special potion with enhanced, powerful healing properties. Carefully, she pours the potent liquid onto the knight's painful wound. The potion hissed, and the wound miraculously began to heal and stitch itself. The knight coughed, and Daisy anxiously asks if he is okay. The knight thanks her, surprised that his savior turned out to be just a child. She hands him the rest of the potion, warning anxiously about possible internal bleeding. Filled with gratitude, the knight tells her that he now owes her his life. With renewed determination, Daisy decides to continue helping everyone she can. On the watchtower, the sorceress sadly whispers her magic is fading and barely flickering. Seeing how she fights below, Daisy tosses the potion up to the mage. The mage grabs the vial and instantly recognizes the much-needed mana potion inside. He was shocked a single bottle of potion completely restored her magic. She asked Daisy to send the commanders and take guards for her own safety. Watching the prolonged battle, Henry feels the knights are being worn down by this giant. When Grimm decided, he retreats from the front line and grabs Grim War. He quickly opens the book, his hand hovering over the ancient text. Having accepted this price, he prepares to release his last powerful spell. From the grimoire around him bursts a swirling vortex of wild, uncontrollable fire. He shouts a desperate warning, "Everyone retreat from that giant." Nearby, a soldier recognizes the deputy captain's trademark burning inferno and calls comrades to retreat. Henry crouched to the ground, focusing immense magical energy within himself. With a single powerful thrust, he unleashes a huge stream of white, blazing flame. The monster is completely engulfed in hellish flames and lets out a surprised scream. Burning tongues of flame lick along the enormous body of the creature, hiding its contours from view. The soldier shouts joyfully, believing that the attack of the famous Hellfire Henry is working. Gasping from the effort, Henry realizes that the spell is harming his eyes. He suddenly shudders when a familiar voice whispers "Father" from surprise. Daisy appears nearby and explains that she gave her last potions to the soldiers. He gently takes the empty bottle from her tiny hands and quietly whispers "Thank you." Putting the conversation aside for later, he decisively orders the guards to take the child to a safe place. With lowered eyes, Daisy quietly agrees to leave the battlefield. She thinks to herself, for her recklessness she will definitely be scolded. The soldier shouts at the top of his lungs. The fire seems to only give strength to this giant. Henry quickly realizes that the blinded beast now attacks with sound and instantly raises the troops. The captain shouts for the knights not to fall behind the coordinated advance of the major. 3 mages, shoulder to shoulder, unleash an incredibly powerful joint spell, the Hammer of Heavenly Wrath. Bright light ignites above the beast in the sky, beginning to sparkle and dazzle. A huge pillar of energy crashes down, shattering the ground with a dull roar. The monster lies in a smoldering crater, as if defeated by mighty magic. A warrior named Mark rushed forward, believing this was his chance to strike. Light barely breaks through the monster's head as it lies among the debris. Its eyes snap open sharply, fully restored and burning with new rage. Lettuce, stunned by the creature's incredible ability to regenerate, loudly shouts a warning to Mark. An invisible force hits Mark in midair and sharply throws him backward through the air. Alicia screams his name in horror, while Daisy covers her mouth and freezes in silence. Mark hits the ground hard while the beast prepares to strike a devastating blow again. The commander decisively gives the order, immediately deploy the defensive formation Fallings. A row of soldiers in heavy armor raises their massive tower shields to block the threat. The roar of the beast crashes into the shield wall, breaking the magical formation. Daisy watches as the soldiers shout that they no longer have magical power. She observes the rest of the knights fighting desperately against all odds. Her gaze falls on the now empty potion chest, a symbol of her helplessness. Pressed by her inability to help, tears well up in her eyes. Right behind her, a gentle voice sounded and asked why she was so sad. She confessed her sorrow, feeling helpless because she is not a sorceress. How painful it is to be a helpless child exactly when it matters most. She cries, it hurts her that she can only stand and watch people being hurt. The voice gently whispers to her that she is not powerless. Daisy looks up in surprise, her eyes full of tears and wide open in confusion. Behind her, in a whirl of ethereal leaves, a majestic winged figure appears. The majestic being towers in impeccably white robes, with dark feathered wings. He introduces himself as the Emerald King of Spirits, her personal guardian. Daisy quietly repeats his title, her voice full of disbelief. The King of Spirits sees that the creature has crossed the line and caused pain to too many people. He raises his hand and commands his to bind the mad beast. Huge thorny tree roots burst from the ground and wrapped around them like a protective shell. A soldier nearby froze in shock, looking at the impossible vegetation growing right from the battlefield. The King of Spirits decisively, with a powerful gesture, directs the roots forward. The roots surged forward at incredible speed, grabbing this unexpected giant. Thorny lianas squeeze the creature with incredible force, which is struggling with all its might. From the watchtower, a soldier shouted, "The beast's magical protection has fallen." Henry sees a golden opportunity and instantly flips through his grimoire. He releases a spiral hell that engulfs the monster trap in a whirl of flames. The chained giant roars and grits his teeth, fighting amid the fiery attack. Althea, her eyes burning with rage, swears this is for what they did to Mark. Another commander in dark uniform is visible. He is preparing to deliver a powerful sword strike. The lady prepares for the technique of quickly drawing the katana, her hand calmly resting on the hilt. Letting out a fierce cry, she unleashes her scythe-slicing strike. Her blade deeply bites into the monster's bare neck with devastating force. Two soldiers loudly rejoiced and exclaimed that they finally defeated the behemoth. A huge crack appears on the monster's head, spreading down across its entire body. It crumbles into huge pieces of rubble and collapses into a lifeless heap. Daisy, exhausted by the emotional storm and magic, falls to the ground, completely powerless. She raises her head when a familiar voice calls her by name after everything that has happened. Panting, Marcus runs up and scolds her for being so reckless and running away. He says he brought all the potions she asked for in the note. Daisy sincerely thanks him and asks, "Start distributing them to the wounded." Smoke rises above the broken city gates like a witness to a brutal battle. Somewhere in the field, Mark suddenly wakes up, gasping for breath. He sits up, wrapped in bandages and confused, wondering how he even managed to survive. Lydia calls him by name and throws herself into his tight, desperate embrace. She sobbed with relief and admitted that she thought it was all over for him. Daisy watches as they gently pat Lyd on the back, and with relief she is glad she made it in time. Her silence was broken by a voice that called her. Night is approaching, on his face genuine admiration, and he asks if she is a saint. He remembers how she glowed with a bright green light when the roots appeared. Daisy Floster tries to deny this, asking what he could have seen. Henry, the deputy vice commander, broke the night's silence to talk to him. He uses the power of the Minister of Wars to temporarily take the child for interrogation. He gently seated Daisy in the waiting carriage, leaving the rest of the soldiers behind. Inside, they sit facing each other in a heavy, tense silence. He begins to speak about how worried he was when he saw her in such a dangerous place. Seeing her on the battlefield, he admits that it shook him to his very core. He thanks that she is safe, although he himself is still worried. He tells her that first he has to clarify one decisive question. He looks her straight in the eyes and asks, "Are you a saint?" Daisy sincerely denies, explaining that she only received a blessing from the King of Spirits. Memory surfaces of the gentle voice of the king calling her his beloved child. Her father felt that there was something more hidden in this story, so he himself uses his skill to evaluate. He is stunned to see that her status now says, beloved child of the Emerald King of Spirits. Daisy asked what happened and explained that her status previously simply said that she had his blessing. She thinks everything changed the moment the King of Spirits came to her aid in battle. Shocked, her father grabs his head and does not understand what is going on. A man in formal uniform explains the enormous political power Daisy now holds. He says excitedly that this blessing is too great for the Viscount's daughter. Looking seriously, he insists, choose your path in life before others find out. Daisy quietly and confidently reassures her worried father she has already decided what she wants in the future. She confesses her modest dream to become an independent alchemist and open her own atelier. With a confident expression, she said that she probably has already saved enough money. Her father, with relief and pride, decisively says, it is my business to support her dream. Overwhelmed with emotions, Daisy hugs him tightly, expressing her deep love. In a few days, workers bustle near the city gates, patching the traces of the recent battle. In the throne hall, the king praised his troops for taming the monsters. He enthusiastically praises their courage. They withstood the giant, and thanks to this no peaceful resident was harmed. The knight, humbly bowing his head, accepts the noble words of the king on behalf of his warriors. Then the king immediately orders to repair the gates, preparing for future monster attacks. He fully relied on his forces, let them handle mobilization and repairs. Shot shows the majestic, towering spires of the royal castle. And the king called Daisy von Preslaria, who nervously stepped forward. He says that she is still young, but enthusiastically praises her for risking her life by distributing potions. He sincerely thanks her, saying that her actions have significantly reduced the number of victims. His tone becomes serious as he asks about those mysterious roots of the tree from the battle. Daisy modestly insists that she was hardly directly involved in this phenomenon. She says that her heart was filled with sorrow, and the King of Spirits heard her plea. The king presses further, persistently asking about her specific relationship with the King of Spirits. Daisy and her father stand nearby, their faces full of tension under the king's watchful eye. Stepping forward, Daisy announced that she would explain the reason to everyone present. In a clear voice, she proclaims that she is the beloved child of the Emerald King of Spirits. The gathered knights froze in shock, unable to believe their eyes. Could her words be true? The king, realizing the full seriousness of the situation, requests a magical verification. Daisy calmly nods her head, thus giving consent to the assessment. The king called his appraiser Heinrich to verify her claim. The king declared that everything in the room is henceforth a state secret. Heinrich kneels, and the magical symbol shines brightly while he conducts the appraisal. He confirms Miss Daisy is truly the beloved child of the King of the Emerald Spirit. Courtiers froze in shock. A legendary beloved child has appeared in their country. The king recalls the prophecy, her presence will bring peace and prosperity. But he also remembers the curse, if she leaves the country, she will be abandoned. The vision of a desert, desolate land vividly shows the terrible consequences of her loss. Overwhelmed with emotion, the king climbs down from his throne, shocking Daisy with his sudden movement. Courtiers watch in shock and disbelief as their monarch prepares to kneel before the child. He ignores their pleas to stop, his head bowed under the heavy burden of responsibility. For the sake of the country and its people, he stubbornly insists on this gesture. He begs his beloved child to stay in their country and continue loving it. As king, he vows to always protect it and respect its wishes. Daisy again speaks with trepidation about her modest desire to one day open her own hotel. She asked for only one thing: to be treated like any other alchemist, and that would satisfy her. When the situation became unbearable, she nervously asks him to return to his throne. The king raises his eyes and looks admiringly at how incredibly modest she is. He stands up and vows to secretly help create and run her future atelier. Before their eyes unfolds the magnificent, richly ornamented architecture of the royal palace. Daisy and her father leave the castle. Their meeting has ended. Daisy froze for a moment in surprise. Something on the street instantly caught her eye. Her gaze falls on a familiar group in the reception area for those who have lost loved ones. Asking her father to wait a moment, she approaches them. A young woman with long hair and a child with cat ears looked up and gasped in surprise. Daisy rushes to her. She recognized the woman from the recent battle. A young man with a bandaged hand recognizes her, the very one who saved him. With concern, she asks if his hand is all right, and he confirms that it is. He smiles and explains that the doctor says with good rest, the recovery will be complete. Lydia notices Daisy's noble clothing and asks if she is the daughter of a noble family. She notes Daisy's bravery, and Daisy admits that because of it, she got into trouble. Noticing that they have not properly introduced themselves yet, Daisy prepares to say her name. The young man introduces himself as Mark, and the woman allowed you. Letitia smiles and introduces the little child with cat ears, who was with them, Mina. She sadly explains that Mina, who appeared in that adventure, died in the recent battle. Daisy sincerely sympathizes with the little girl over her loss. Mark says that for now they are taking care of her, but they cannot do it forever. Daisy's father suddenly interrupts. His appearance shocks the adventurers. He introduces himself and gently places his hand on the head of the child with cat ears. He kindly asks the young woman if she has relatives or another place she can go to. He then asks if there is something she is especially good at. Mina shyly replies that she likes cooking and is skilled in household chores. Hearing this, Daisy's father instantly makes a merciful decision. The young girl raises her eyes, stunned by his sudden offer to let her come to his home. He softly reassures her, if she does not like it, he will help find something else. Wiping tears, Mina admits that she does not know any formal etiquette rules but will learn. She bows deeply, gratefully accepts his care, and promises to do her best. The status screen silently revealed the details: orphan, commoner with domestic skills. Continuation of this story awaits in the next chapter. The scene shifts outside to the majestic estate of the Preslari family. Inside, Daisy's father proudly introduces the newcomer to their family. Mina, the girl with cat ears, nervously meets her new guardians. Daisy's mother and another girl warmly welcomed her, calling her a cutie. Father announces they will celebrate with their first shared meal. At the luxurious dining table, the maid serves dishes to the family. Mina looks stunned. Anxiety overwhelms her amid this tense and unfamiliar environment. The woman leaned in, inhaled the scent of a piece of bread, and exclaimed admiringly about its fruity aroma. Mina's story wags cheerfully, and she wonders if she can eat it. The woman encourages Mina to try, smiling and explaining that it is one of Daisy's signature dishes. With a pounding heart, Mina hesitantly takes a piece of bread. First bite carried an explosion of delight through her, and her eyes sparkled. She exclaims with delight, "It is so soft, an incredible aroma and fruity taste fill her mouth." The woman smiles and praises Mina for the vivid description, noting that it is all thanks to her own culinary skill. The boy amusingly complains that he can only say delicious. And the boy asks Daisy about those new types of bread she wanted to bake. Daisy proudly explains that this new creation is a crispy Danish pastry. Her father, with a glass of wine in hand, looks at the new texture with interest. Daisy seizes the opportunity and invites Mina to help them make it. Mina's tail wags wildly as she eagerly accepts the offer. The family agreed to start their baking project the next day. The scene shifts to the kitchen door, as if inviting to their culinary adventure. 3 girls gathered around the recipe book and, after reading, were surprised to learn the butter must be folded into the dough again and again. In the kitchen, a maid named Mina is worried. The luxurious bread they want to bake is too expensive to bake often. Unfazed, Daisy decides that this time they will act without worrying about the costs. She loudly waved a rolling pin and announced that their first task is to make a sheet of butter. Daisy explains how to roll the butter thinly with a rolling pin before folding it. With heavy groans, she strains, trying to stretch the stubborn piece of butter. She gasps in despair and grumbles that the butter is too hard and does not become flat at all. Mina calmly and confidently offers to take on this difficult part of the task for her lady. With practice and confident hands, Mina begins skillfully rolling out the hard piece of butter. Daisy wipes sweat from her forehead, feels relieved, and decides that now they can knead the dough. The girl with cat ears recognizes the familiar bread ingredients laid out on the countertop. Daisy grandly and proudly pulls out her secret trump card, a jar of homemade yeast. 2 girls worked side by side, extremely focused on kneading the dough. Prepared dough was placed in the old refrigerator to rest overnight. The next morning, the girl cat ear wakes up, ready to continue their baking project. On the table rested dough and prepared layers of butter, ready for the next step. Mina skillfully shows how to wrap a sheet of dough around the butter. The tedious process begins, rolling out and folding the dough again and again. Daisy, fascinated by Mina's skill, watches and marvels at how easily she does it. The girl with cat ears notices all the hard work, but Daisy's happily wagging tail reveals her joy. When the folding is complete, the dough is cut into squares and left to rest again. The 3 of them take a short, cozy break, sipping warm tea and enjoying a moment of calm. Finally, the girl with cat ears gently brushes the buns with beaten egg. Then the prepared products are taken to the hot brick oven to be baked. A tray with perfectly baked, golden brown pastries appears with a triumphant wave. Everyone admires the beautiful shiny glaze and the amazing smell of butter with enthusiasm. The girl with cat ears shyly asks if she can try it, and Mina agrees with delight. They take a bite and marvel, outside a crunchy crust, inside fluffy, juicy pulp. Ina proudly says, "From now on this creation will overturn our dining table." Daisy asks again about the price, and her friend insists that she wants them for her snacks. The shot opens outside. Before us is the grand building in the magnificent residence of stately Prislaria. A man in the magical core uniform arrives at a smaller building on the premises. He calls Daisy, saying he returned from an expedition and brought a souvenir. Daisy jumped for joy when he revealed that he brought her the antidote plan. The man explains that he knew she was looking for new ingredients for alchemy. Filled with excitement, Daisy declares that she must immediately set off and be planted in her field. In her laboratory, Daisy sadly says that she never managed to prepare the Chantley cream she had planned. Her assistant Marcus appears and asks her to check the potion he prepared that day. She evaluated the potion, and it turned out to be a high-quality medicinal potion with enhanced effects. She enthusiastically praises Marcus. His potions are now always of excellent quality. The stern man burst in, slammed the door, and began scolding Mark for his noisy behavior. Daisy smiles and wishes the embarrassed Marcus good luck while he is being scolded. The man grabs Marcus and drags him away, saying that this is just a little re-education. Daisy happily announces that she has personally finished her standard antidote potion. The examination confirms the quality is good, but the effectiveness is only at the level of store-bought versions. She flips through a thick volume, carefully searching for a recipe for a more powerful antidote. She is gripped by horror when she learns that the main ingredient is the deadly mandrake root. A little fairy peeks into the room and curiously asks about Daisy's new creation. Daisy confirmed to prepare a powerful antidote, she needs mandrake root. She thinks aloud, should she submit a request for subjugation to get one for herself? Fairy panics and forbids subjugating mandragoras, which are dear to her. Stunned, Daisy realizes that mandragoras are a type of fairy and apologizes for her idea. This new information makes her task of obtaining the root even harder. Hiram looked at the matter differently, noticing that Daisy only needs the root material, not the creature itself. She promises to find out a few things and instantly jumps out the window, setting off on her mission. Hiram quietly sailed away from the building, leaving behind a Daisy full of hope. Several days passed. Daisy is outside with a watering can in her hands, watering her plants. She thinks aloud whether Param will return today with news for her. Suddenly, something unusual growing in her field caught her attention. She notices a new plant and does not remember planting it here. She sat down and admiringly gazes at the beautiful flower, thinking that someone planted it as a gift. Suddenly, the plant jumped out from under the ground, revealing a smiling, intelligent mandrake. Mandrake explains that they moved here because they heard she needs them. Daisy is impressed, and speechless, the creature independently relocated to her field. Mandrake says how pleasant and cozy it is to be buried in her field. The fairy returns and joyfully announces that she brought the rake of that man. Daisy anxiously asks if they can be moved. Hiram quietly reassures her they like it here and they have already agreed to share their roots. Mandrake asked Daisy to promise that she would not pull them out herself. A few more days passed. In her laboratory, Daisy holds a piece of mandrake root given to her with a triumphant smile. She firmly decides to follow the recipe from the textbook. This is her first attempt at a potion. Focused, she begins to stir the ingredients in the flask. The resulting mixture was cloudy and even worse than her usual potions. Her assessment immediately reveals the problem lies in the process of extracting the root. She carefully examines the decoction and concludes that boiling the root spoils the ingredient. The failed elixir begins to bubble and foam wildly over the burner. Turns into useless industrial waste, and she growls in pure frustration. An alarmed cry arose in the royal castle. Something is wrong with the prince. In despair, the king orders the court physician to be summoned immediately. The doctor examines the sick prince, and the king, with his heart in his throat, urgently asks for a diagnosis. With a heavy expression, he told them that it seems the prince was poisoned. The king clutched his head in despair. It happened again. The doctor explains that this new poison is an improved version, and it is much harder to treat. He warns that the antidotes they currently have may simply not work. The king, in panic, orders his people to gather all available antidotes in the ministry. He gently promises his son William that he will recover very soon. We find ourselves again in Daisy's workshop. An exhausted Daisy realizes that the insidious roots of the mandrake are the main problem. Suddenly, she is struck with an idea. She must first try to extract the roots of this compound. A sudden thought at the door interrupted her insight. Her father sharply opened the door and urgently shouted her name. Daisy sees him surprised. She thought he was supposed to be at work. He immediately asks if she has already managed to brew at least some antidote. She confirms that she has the usual ones but is currently working on a powerful version. He feels incredible relief and urgently asks her to finish as soon as possible. It is urgent. Left alone, Daisy feels pressure. A doubt grows in her chest whether she can cope. She decides to do everything in her power because she feels the matter is truly serious. The process is difficult for her. Her attempts to extract repeatedly fail. But at the mixing stage, she succeeds. Her hands glow with concentration. Delighted, Daisy wipes sweat from her forehead and with relief sees that her powerful antidote has worked. In the royal castle, the man solemnly announced the arrival of the deputy chief mage. He explains with boundless gratitude that other antidotes did not work, while Daisy shows her creation. The sick Prince William is gently encouraged to drink the life-saving potion. Seeing the prince's suffering, Daisy clenched her hands and prayed that the treatment would work. After a sip, the young prince barely coughed, and this frightened his father. The king urgently asked Dr. Mandre to confirm the boy's current condition. Placing his hand on the glowing magical symbol, the doctor focused and began to diagnose. Dr. Mandre calmly reports, the poison has been neutralized, but the prince's stomach is damaged. The king anxiously requests another potion to heal the remaining internal injuries. Danger has receded, and the young prince has finally fallen into a peaceful sleep. The doctor assures everyone, the worst is behind, he will fully recover. Overwhelmed with relief, the king admits that it was incredibly worth it. He stands up and sincerely thanks both Dr. Mandre and Daisy. As a father, he sincerely thanks from the bottom of his heart. Later, in a private room, the door is firmly closed. A secret meeting is being held here. King apologizes. He must speak so that no one overhears. Daisy's father nervously asks if it is appropriate for his little daughter to be present. King confirms he needs exactly chamomile and insists that this conversation must remain secret. With a piercing look, he asks Daisy if she can synthesize the serum of truth. Confused, Daisy repeats to him the unfamiliar term, truth serum. The father explains that it is a substance that makes the one who takes it speak only the truth. The king tears off the mask. The suspect is already identified, but the real organizer still needs to be found. Daisy suddenly remembers a similar potion and quickly says she must check the necessary ingredients. He agrees and asks her to inform him as soon as she checks them. Returning home, Daisy immediately throws herself into her important research work. She rushes to her father's study, exclaiming excitedly what she has discovered. Flipping through the pages of the book, she finds the recipe for the talking serum. She explains that she only needs talkative mushrooms and Donna's herb to make it. Her father looks gently but seriously. A plan is already forming in his mind. He asks his daughter to come to him. He needs to talk to her alone. Daisy settled on her father's lap, clutching the book she just found. He asked her to think about the consequences for the guilty ones they will find. She naively assumes that they will probably just be arrested for their crimes. The father quietly explains, this drug will not bring anyone a happy ending. Daisy thinks that at least those who harmed the prince will be punished. He confirms this and adds, the punishment is most likely the death penalty or life imprisonment. Gently stroking her head, he asked if she still wants to do it. She looks down and suddenly realizes that her potion could lead to someone's execution. The father offers her a way out. He says that if she cannot do it, he will explain everything. Daisy is silent for a long time, thoughtfully considering the difficult choice before her. With new determination, she vows that she will succeed to protect the king's smile. Her father looks at her with understanding and pride, accepting her decision. He hugs her tightly, thanking her for her incredible courage. That night, a dreadful silence fell over the family house. Everyone was asleep. Above the nameplate on Daisy's door hung a huge wolf-like shadow. The same ominous shadow looms over her bed while she sleeps soundly. A gigantic dark silhouette of a wolf appears and silently watches over the sleeping girl. Next morning, cheerful birds chirp outside the window of the house. Daisy, half asleep, murmurs good morning, rustling under the warm blankets. She tries to get up and suddenly feels that her body is unnaturally heavy. She notices next to her a huge, beautiful white wolf sleeping soundly. Completely stunned, she does not understand what the huge wolf is doing in her room. The wolf's eyes slowly opened and, as if peeking, looked at her when she began to move. Feeling her awakening, the creature politely rose and loomed over her small figure. Gathering her voice, she nervously asked the huge creature who it was. The majestic bee gracefully jumped from the bed to the floor. It calls itself Fenrir, a sacred beast sent for protection. Daisy froze. She was stunned to hear the names of legendary creatures, Fenrir and the King of Spirits. She froze in awe. The creature from the books was sitting right in front of her. Suddenly, a practical thought visits her. She asks if this means he will live with her. Fenrir confirms this with a grim expression, explaining that he must stay close to her. Daisy decided first she must discuss this incredible news with her father. She understands that hiding such a huge creature is simply impossible. A sudden knock on the door, it scared both her and the great wolf. Her father's voice called her, wished her good morning, and mentioned some work matter. Daisy utters an embarrassed good morning as her father enters the room. Her father, completely confused, asked who her huge friend really was. Unable to find the words, she began to explain this incredible situation. After a long and stunning explanation, her father finally understood the new reality. On his knees on the floor, her father processes the information and accepts the situation. He agrees to let Fenrir live with them, and Daisy simply shines with joy because of this. But he firmly insists that they must hide Fenrir's true identity to protect Daisy's secret. Fenrir emphasizes that he will still have to accompany her every time she goes to the city. Her father thoughtfully considers this logistical problem, crossing his arms. He suggests a legend for cover. They will present Fenrir as Daisy's familiar. To prove this, he pulls out a luxuriously decorated crest, confirming his status as a familiar. Fenrir agrees, saying firmly, his only task is to protect the beloved child. The giant beast bowed its head as if telling them, do as you wish. Daisy says directly, even as a familiar, his huge size is a real problem. With a quiet poof, the wolf begins to transform right before her surprised eyes. The essence contracts, as if asking whether this smaller form fits better. Daisy is fascinated by this resilience and playfully toys with his fur. The wolf suddenly confessed he never had a name, so he asked what to call him. After a short pause, Daisy suggests naming him Leaf. Leaf agrees, the name sounds pleasant, so they decided on it. A few days later, an expedition squad gathers near the northwest gate. Daisy joins the mission to assess the ingredients. Leaf officially becomes her guardian. The deputy chief mage firmly confirmed their path leads into a dangerous orc forest. He tensely warned the assembled team, during their gathering mission they should expect encounters with the enemy. With a sharp command, the wizard spurs the horse and they gallop forward. The whole company gallops through the city gates. Their journey begins. Their horses thundered across the wide plains, and a lonely rabbit froze, watching them rush by. Riding on the top Leaf, Daisy spread her arms wide and felt incredible freedom. She thoughtfully thinks that riding on the Leaf is much freer than during any previous mission. Her comrades suggest running through a few key details once more before they arrive. He explains one orc alone is not too scary, but they have a weak spot. Daisy understands the real danger is that they move in groups. She inquired about what large groups they might have to face. He confirms they have to confront higher-ranking enemies, senior orcs, generals, and even kings. With a serious expression, the deputy chief mage warns, do not underestimate even the weakest orc. Their mounts gallop forward, the rhythmic pounding of hooves echoing across the steppe. Soon the expedition squad found themselves at the threshold of the ominous orc forest. A subordinate, bowing, solemnly reports his arrival to the deputy chief mage. Their commander shouted, form a defensive circle around Daisy and move forward. High above the dense canopy of trees, the anxious caw of a raven fills the air. Rummaging in the thicket, Daisy finds no sign of the material she needs. A low roar sounds from the trees. It warns the nearby knight of a hidden threat. Drawing his sword, the knight let out an alarmed cry. He spotted an orc. From the dense forest emerged two more fierce, rough creatures. Commander shouted to everyone, prepare for battle, and Daisy retreat. The knight rushed forward and his sword clashed with the orc's heavy club with a crash. With one powerful, decisive strike of the sword, the knight felled his monster. When the smaller orc was left standing alone, his face became a mask of shock and fear. The frightened creature instantly jumps back into the bushes and flees swiftly. The knight apologizes for letting one escape. His commander predicts that it will call for reinforcements. Her heart was nervously pounding, and Daisy carefully combed through the leaves underfoot in the forest again. Her gaze stopped on a cluster of mushrooms growing at the base of a tree. With an admiring squeal, she recognized them. These were the very talking mushrooms they needed. The deputy chief mage sharply shouted to her, wait, sensing that danger was about to catch up. A dull thud snapped a branch. This signaled the arrival of a new, even bigger enemy. A giant tall orc appears, leading a reinforcement squad called by the scout. The commander shouts about the approaching enemy, and the orc horde tears forward with a guttural roar. As if with one breath, two mages cast the spell Willow of Ice on the beast charging at them. Their magic hits the leading tall orc, instantly enveloping his lower body with sharp, jagged ice. While the mages deal with the greater threat, the knights rush into battle with the smaller orcs in a flash of steel. The deputy chief mage decisively declared that he would personally deal with that other higher orc. His spell, an ice spear, strikes the creature right in the chest with a terrifying dull blow. The towering orc froze completely, like an ice statue. His last roar was drowned out by powerful magic. Commander stands firm. His spell decisively destroyed the main threat. He wiped the sweat from his forehead, held his breath, and thought, has this battle finally ended? Daisy looks admiringly at their skills, impressed that they defeated 5 orcs at once. Two new ominous figures emerged from the shadows, the Orc General and the Orc King. When the commander saw the king, he immediately warned, "This will be a much tougher fight." The Orc King swings his huge sword with incredible force, and the weapon thuds heavily against the ground. Flying swords strike the knight shields with a deafening roar, causing them to sway. With a fierce roar, the king charged forward, knocking down defenders with his strength. The knights defended their positions with their last strength under the relentless and powerful pressure of the king. The great wolf leaf pushed Daisy back and whispered decisively, "Stay behind me, it will be safer that way." The commander raises an ice wall to stop the onslaught, but it immediately begins to crack. With a single contemptuous blow, the Orc King completely shatters the ice barrier. The commander decisively ordered everyone to retreat, preparing to unleash an even more powerful spell. He summons Ice Age Glacier, a massive wave of ice that crashes down and engulfs whoever charges the attack or the king. Confident they had won, they celebrated at night until their celebration was cut short because he noticed another enemy. Forgotten general of the organization slipped past their defense and now stands directly behind Daisy. Seeing the impending danger, the deputy chief mage shouted in panic, "Daisy." Daisy raised her eyes, frightened and defenseless, as a threat loomed over her. The Orc General raises his heavy club high, preparing to deliver a devastating fatal blow. In the whirl of white fur, Leaf rushes forward and crashes into the general to protect Daisy. The great wolf stands over the fallen orc, effortlessly neutralizing the threat. Daisy sincerely thanks her loyal guardian, and he just smiles and says it was a simple matter. The knight's sigh of relief suddenly ended with a loud crack from the glacier. The mighty Orc King begins to break free from the icy imprisonment. The powerful magic did not hold. The commander, in despair, asks himself if they can even defeat this much stronger enemy. With a calm, intelligent gaze, Leifin made Stacy utter the Rosewhip spell. Although initially hesitant, Daisy raises her hands, trusting the command of her companion. She shouts the spell, and a stream of shining, thorn-covered vines burst from her hands. The magical vines wrap around the fighter or the king, completely ensnaring him in a trap. The king explodes with a furious roar, his muscles tense as he struggles against the new bonds. The thorny lianas lash around the creature, tightening the choking ring with every movement. The huge creature groans in pain, its body stretched to the limit, and the lianas do not break. Under the pressure of relentless magical power, the mighty Orc King finally collapses to the ground. And the knight is seized by the incredible power of the spell and urges everyone to finish off the beast. The battle is finally won, and the last flashes of magical energy fade on the field. Finally, Daisy can safely gather those chatty mushrooms she noticed earlier. A soldier approaches her and, with excitement in his voice, praises the incredible, unfamiliar spell with which she won the battle. Daisy shyly deflected the compliment, hastily saying that it was just simple earth magic. Inside, she knows the truth about her abilities connected to spirits must not be revealed. The commander decisively states that they have already gathered more materials here than needed. He orders everyone to saddle up. They are moving to the next location. The group rides on, the quiet clip-clop of their horses' hooves echoes on the road. Suddenly, they came upon a majestic carriage fiercely besieged by a horde of orcs. The knight recognizes the attackers' orcs and immediately informs the deputy chief mage. He asks his commander whether they should send reinforcements to the besieged carriage. The commander decisively agreed, and they spurred their horses into a full gallop, rushing to help. The rescuers rushed forward to the desperate clash taking place on the road ahead. One of the companions asked Daisy if she could use the same powerful magic again that she had used earlier. Daisy releases Rosewhip. It lashes in an arc just at the moment when it was about to attack the fallen guard. The roar of battle quiets. The last orcs have just been defeated. The man steps forward and sincerely thanks everyone for saving them. He introduces himself as Oliver, a merchant from the royal capital. The knight gave all the glory to Daisy, recognizing her as the true heroine of this battle. Oliver stood stunned. How could such a young girl possess such powerful magic? He bows deeply, thanking her with all his heart for saving their lives during the orc attack. The merchant asked her to wait a moment and rushed back to the carriage to bring something. He returns, explaining that he has only a modest gift for the young lady. He presents an elegant, lace hair ornament as a sign of his sincere gratitude. Daisy is delighted, calls the ornament cute, accepts it, and sincerely thanks him. When the Daisy group moves forward, Oliver smilingly wishes them a happy and safe journey. The sky is clear, and their expedition continues its long way home. They walk through wide, rolling hills of the beautiful Orsina Plains. Daisy triumphantly finds Donna grass, the last ingredient for her important mission. The next day, Daisy returns again to the familiar comfort of her workshop. She recalls that difficult but ultimately successful trip when she finally managed to gather all the necessary materials. She tries mushrooms for the first time, so she knows well this process requires great caution. She remembers that terrible failure when she tried to combine extracts. With a focused gaze, she carefully stirs in the flask over a low flame, and the process begins. Her skill is confirmed by one thing: she has created a truly high-quality, living conversational excerpt. Having taken out the mushrooms, she immediately moves on to the next decisive step. She recalls from research, the strong roots of dana grass must be boiled to extract the essence. And the evaluation reveals a high-quality medicinal base known as the temptation extract. Daisy looks at the bubbling flask and sees boiling the mixture was the right decision. Carefully pouring, she wonders how magical stones become indispensable in modern alchemy. An imaginal womb rises from the test tube, and she waits hopefully for the reaction. A huge relief spread over her when she managed to create a powerful, talkative serum. Her eyes suddenly widen in shock as she feels the full power of the potion. The serum's description warns, even its creator is strictly forbidden to abuse it. Slightly trembling, Daisy's face grew somber under the weight of her creation. She whispers to herself that everything is fine, she is doing this to protect His Highness. In a few days, Daisy was noticed. She was walking down the town street. Her assistant Kate smiled and said that to complete the shopping they only needed flour and eggs. Nearby, Daisy overhears two women eagerly gossiping about a recent event. It turned out that the powerful Marquis was the real organizer, and he was sentenced to death. News hit Daisy like a physical blow. Her maid Kate notices the sudden anxiety of her mistress and calls her. Daisy suddenly turned away and sharply told Kate that she was going home with Leaf. He rushed away, and the worried Kate called after her in surprise. The door slammed in the Preslary house. It was a sign of Daisy's anxious return. Her father finds a letter from the Great Wolf lying gloomily in the corridor. He shouted that he was leaving because he felt something was wrong in the house. Leaf explains that his lady wants to be alone for now. Father stands with anxiety on his face, afraid that his daughter will not even speak to him. The letter from the wise wolf rises quietly and confidently. He understands that the master must wait for permission before entering his daughter's room. Leaf says that she needs her father right now, not him. Her father lightly knocked on the door and asked Daisy if he could come in. The door creaked and opened. He looked inside with a worried expression. He closes the door, thinking that Kate has already told him what happened. Suddenly, Daisy threw herself into his arms, clinging desperately. He buries her face in his chest, her body trembling with suppressed sobs. He asked her father if she really did the right thing in this situation. The young girl confesses she is scared of what she has become. Her father looks at her with a gentle, understanding gaze. He reassures her she is not to blame for anything and has grown a lot. He explains that in every life story there are always two sides. This especially applies to mages and alchemists, those who hold great power in their hands. He admits that he himself once feared his own power. Mission comes to mind when he lost control and almost killed a comrade. This memory instilled horror in him and made him doubt whether he could continue to be a mage. He assures her great powers and deadly consequences should not scare her. Properly applied, he says, it becomes a power that brings happiness. He warmly reminds her how her skills successfully protected His Highness. He promises to help her learn to use her power in the best way possible. He says that someday she will find the answer to her questions in her heart. Daisy listens to his words and her face softens with understanding. With new determination, she raises her eyes to him and agrees with his wisdom. Her father peeks out from behind the door and hints that it's time to let Leaf back in. Leaf flew into the room and, overflowing with tenderness, jumped onto Daisy at full speed, bouncing on her from excess love. Her father smiles, opening the door of the royal castle on another day. The majestic facade of the royal castle towers against the sky. His Highness sincerely apologizes for involving Daisy in such a disgusting conflict. He fully credits her potion. It was what allowed him to protect his family. He offers to fulfill any of her wishes that are within his power. Daisy asked him to promise that he would never again order her to brew that potion. He confesses she acted alone, following her naive sense of justice. She admits that she lacked the wisdom to understand the true purpose of the potion. She explains her only wish is to open a studio at the age of 10. The prince understood everything and promised, when the time comes, he will support her dream. Time passes, and before us stands Daisy in a room with a large bay window. She reviews papers and suddenly realizes she has finally saved enough money for her own home. The fairy, leaning over a pile of papers, asks hopefully, "Are these documents for my atelier?" Fairy is glowing with the news and impatiently waiting to move. Daisy smiles and says that fairies are welcome here after all, she is counting on them. Her assistant Marcus joyfully announced that he finished the morning tasks in the atelier. Daisy asked Mark if there was anything he would want for the new store. He thoughtfully considers what they need the most. Daisy takes notes while he explains why they now need to carry all the water. He suggests going to the river to fetch water. It would help a lot. A cheerful girl with cat ears named Mina flies into the laboratory and happily greets Daisy. Daisy warmly welcomes her and asks why she came all the way to the laboratory. Mina gladly offers Daisy her new recipe for Danish pastry, which she invented herself for her to try. Daisy took a bite, delighted. The convenient paper holders immediately revealed that a maid was working here. She closes her eyes in bliss, savoring that sweet, soft, and fluffy pastry. Mina eagerly talks about delicious fillings of stewed apples and large peaches in syrup. Daisy declares Mina a true confectioner, and Mina gladly agrees to cook at the Atelier. Mina notices the real estate documents and asks if Daisy plans to open an atelier. Daisy confirms she is preparing the shop, although there are still 2 years left on the lease. Then she asked Mina if she wanted anything for the new Italian. Mina nervously fiddled with her fingers, fearing that her request might become an unnecessary trouble. She awkwardly asked if it would be a bad idea to open a bakery there. Daisy is stunned by the unexpected and exciting proposal to go to the bakery. Mina passionately explains that she wants as many people as possible to try Daisy's creations. An idea sparked in Daisy. She realized that the smell would attract customers. She asked Mina to sit down because a new idea was wildly racing through her head. Her plan has now completely changed. This is no longer about buying existing real estate. She firmly says that they will build a completely new atelier from scratch. Mina froze with surprise and is insanely happy because of this bold new statement. Daisy begins to sketch the plan of the first floor and allocates one side for the atelier. She imagines herself behind the counter, serving customers the best potions. She invents shelves with a special protective effect so that things do not spoil. Mina resolutely agrees not to regret a single penny for the sake of flawless quality control. Daisy decides the laboratory at the back will be much larger than the one they have now. Mina adds that direct access from the back will greatly facilitate restocking. Daisy suddenly realizes they still need a warehouse for storing materials. Her imagination expands. She sees another field in the wilderness where ingredients are grown. She imagines an irrigation channel stretching from the river. This can solve their water problem. Then she points to the left part of the building and says that there is Mina's bakery. Mina thoughtfully imagines what kind of atmosphere she wants to fill her space with. She suggests an open, trendy cafe-style space where customers can eat. She imagines herself behind the counter, serving customers fresh, fluffy bread. Mina passionately shares her dream of a place where hungry travelers can eat. She envisions shelves near the counter displaying various types of bread for sale. Daisy diligently writes down Mina's idea, adding magically preserved shelves to the plan. Mina continues to imagine a full bakery in the back where fresh bread is baked daily. Closing her eyes, Daisy blissfully imagines the amazing aroma of baking bread. A small detail shows pastries temptingly displayed behind a glass showcase. Mina shyly suggested, fresh desserts can also be made, just need a bigger refrigerator. Daisy gladly agrees and promises to prepare a large refrigerator for her. When the first floor was already planned, Daisy enthusiastically suggested taking on the design of the second. They surprised me and I immediately understood they would need housing in the new house. Daisy shares her dream of a stylish, open space with high ceilings for the shop. She plans to arrange a living area with a kitchen on the upper floor, a place where Mina can cook food. Mina simply shines at the very thought of a space where there is enough room for everyone to eat together. The design includes a corridor leading to private rooms, one for each person. Reviewing the plans, they both agreed this will be the best atelier ever. Daisy decisively confirms her decision. We are moving forward with this bold new plan. She gently reminds Mina that she will have to study hard to hone her skills. Mina, full of determination, promises to do everything possible. An exterior shot reveals a dignified, well-kept house with a noticeable turret. Daisy carefully clips a flower hairpin into her hair, preparing herself. Now fully dressed, she stands ready and determined for the important task of the day. Father asked if she had not forgotten to take the letter of recommendation from the king. When everything was ready, he said it was time for them to set off. They head down the main street of the city, bustling with carts and people. Their path leads to the magnificent multi-story building, the Merchants Guild. Daisy raised her head and looked with admiration at the giant structure, how huge it was. Father explains to her that every shop owner in the country is registered here. Inside, the receptionist greets them and asks how she can help. Henry introduces himself as Viscount Persleria, and his daughter Daisy stands beside him. He says they have come to honor Daisy before she opens her shop. The receptionist froze, the letter from His Majesty the King himself. Daisy asks what the fuss is about, and her father gently reassures her, saying it's perfectly normal. The new employee informs them that the guildmaster wants to see them. He leads them into a cylindrical room and invites them to enter. Curious, Daisy wonders, do they all have to fit into this small space? The guide explains with a smile, this is an elevator powered by magical stones. Daisy watches with admiration as the elevator rises from the first floor. She presses her father's code and excitedly feels this strange new sensation. The elevator dinged when it arrived, and the guide pointed them to the room. She politely and gently directs them to proceed straight into the meeting room. They enter the bow at the same moment. The man sincerely greets Count Fire Praslaria and Lady Daisy. Daisy thanks the man for taking the time to meet with him. The man's eyes opened wide, recognized them, and realized that they were the ones who helped him on the road. View of the guild buildings from outside, and you feel that a transition is coming. Oliver, the guild master, with a note of surprise, remarked on the strange coincidence in their meeting. Earlier, Henry introduced himself and his daughter Daisy. He enthusiastically tells that Daisy plans to open a studio in 2 years. He solemnly extends a royal letter of recommendation to confirm Oliver. Oliver reads the letter and with interest notices Daisy has already successfully sold potions more than once. He understands she intends to open a shop for people, not just for officials. Daisy assures that she will also sell fresh baked goods made with the help of alchemy. Oliver became quite interested in the idea of tasty fresh bread from an alchemist. He admits his only experience with bread is something hard and tasteless. Oliver explains the rule: she cannot fully register because she is not yet 10 years old. But he offers a solution: temporary registration to obtain permission. This path would allow her to reserve a place for her shop in advance. Henry agrees to the arrangement and decides to act as everyone advised. They sit together. It seems the business part of their meeting is already behind them. Oliver asks her advice, recalling how the king himself highly praised her skill. Daisy asks what happened and sincerely offers help if she can. Oliver, with a worried expression, explains that it concerns his daughter Cadieu. He tells how many years ago she was bitten by a petrified snake. Since that day, her leg below the knee has petrified. He adds that in the capital neither doctor nor alchemist found a cure. He clenches his hands in despair and begs if she can help them. He bitterly says that her condition prevents her from fulfilling her dream of becoming a merchant. Daisy listens attentively with seriousness in her voice and promises to investigate as soon as she returns home. Oliver hands her 3 silver coins so she can immediately start the investigation. She formally agrees to his request and firmly decides to find a way out for him. After a few days, the action shifts to Daisy's personal workshop. Books surround her on all sides, and she diligently searches for a possible cure. Daisy came across a possible cure, but synthesizing it is incredibly difficult. The recipe calls for mandrake root and liquid from a lithification sac. And also a valuable item is needed: a spool. She notices that the method of creation has flaws, probably that's why others fail. Daisy decides to gather everything she can and then consult her father. An exterior shot shows the roof of her large, stately family home. She showed Mark her list and he shook his head. These materials are really hard to get. He suggests let's turn to Mr. Oliver for advice. After all, he has connections in the guild. They arrived at the Merchant Guild, and Oliver, upon hearing the news, simply beamed with joy. Daisy, with a tremor in her voice, says that they encountered problems when buying equipment and materials. Oliver says decisively, the main obstacles are the bag with liquid and the spool, which need to be overcome. He is confident that the Adventurers Guild will handle the request for the bag. He fervently promises to get all the materials and deliver them straight to her home. Daisy says worriedly that the production method is full of unknowns and they will have to act by trial and error. Oliver claps his hands and proposes a payment plan to solve this. He suggests for success 3 gold coins and for failure 5 silver coins. Daisy could not believe it. He will pay her anyway, even if she fails. He explains that business is a calculation of time, effort, and risk. A week later, a carriage thundered in front of her house and stopped. The courier placed a heavy wooden box on the ground with a dull thud. He opened the case. Inside lay copper wire and a vial of petrification liquid. He strictly warns her that the liquid is extremely toxic and must not be touched. Scene shifts outside to a small private workshop. Inside, Marcus asked if the newly purchased coil fits well with their flask. Daisy confirms it fits perfectly into the graduated cylinder. Everything is ready for the experiment. He opens the window to make sure the room breathes fresh air. She strictly orders Marcus put on a mask. This vapor is poisonous. Daisy also puts on sturdy gloves to better protect herself. With the petrification liquid and mandrake extract at hand, she prepares to begin. In protective masks, Daisy and Marcus hold their breath and prepare for the dangerous alchemical process. Dark viscous liquid slowly and carefully pours into the glass graduated cylinder. Daisy watches the potion intently, listening to the strange sounds it makes. She instantly pours in ice water to cool the mixture, which is rapidly heating up. Daisy asked Marcus to stir while she prepared to channel magic. Focusing energy, she holds her hands over the coil wrapped around the chemical beaker. While Marcus stirs, Daisy directs her magic at the unstable substances. They both watch intently, hoping the fragile reaction will succeed. The assessment revealed a poor quality mixture, but it reacts, and this brought Daisy relief. After 30 minutes, Daisy was barely holding on. The intense magical control exhausted her to the bone. Marcus kindly offers to take over, and grateful Daisy agrees. An hour past, the painstaking alchemical process is still ongoing. The liquid in the graduated cylinder finally ignited with a soft, victorious glow. Exhausted, Daisy thinks this terrible job should pay more. She rushed to inform Mr. Oliver to take care of the cleanup. The next day, Daisy arrives at the elegant gates of the grand estate. The leg of the young girl impatiently taps on the floor inside. Leaning on crutches, the girl introduced herself. "I am Caxia," and warmly thanked Daisy. Daisy still thinks that Katia is nice, despite her frightening height, and responds to the greeting. Daisy led Kosha to the room to begin treatment. Sitting on the sofa, Cactus's leg froze like stone, pale and completely motionless. Daisy asked Katia, "Are you ready to start the procedure?" She gently soothes Caxia, asking her to say if it hurts. Daisy carefully massages the glowing antidote into the petrified skin. Suppress your gasp of shock as she sees her leg regain color again. She exclaims that she can now move her ankle and toes, which were previously completely stiff. Overjoyed, she exclaimed that she feels everything all the way down. Full of delight, Caxia happily says she wants to try to stand up. Daisy extends a helping hand and gently asks her not to rush. Hesitantly, Katia places her newly healed foot flat on the floor. She takes a step and exclaims to Daisy that her legs are moving. Suddenly, her weak legs buckle and she begins to fall. Daisy instantly reacts and catches her with a supportive embrace. She kindly suggests practicing a little more before Katia goes alone. Successful treatment ends near the grand house. Katia and her father bow deeply, sincerely expressing their great gratitude. Oliver handed Daisy her reward for the promise and registration in the guild. Daisy confirms that everything is fine and sincerely thanks him for the registration. He wisely advises her to always carry important identification with her. Katia says she heard about Daisy's plan to open a special atelier. Daisy confesses her plans are still in their infancy. Katia impatiently asks if there will be a place for her to help. Daisy wonders, does Katia feel only obligation because of the treatment? Katia vehemently denies this, insisting that she is genuinely interested in this project. Her father shyly admits that he was the one who told her. Katia explains that she studied business and can handle all the connections. He passionately begs to join the project and becomes the new partner. The new team gathers on the side of their atelier, looking to the future. Katia solemnly introduced herself. She is the daughter of the guild master. She shines with joy. A fateful opportunity to help Daisy's business has come to her. Daisy smilingly introduces them to two other assistants who will work alongside. She gladly presents Katia, Mina, their head baker and chef. Then she introduces the young man, Marcus, her assistant in alchemy. Marcus and Mina politely bow, welcoming Katia to the team. Daisy smiles, realizing how much Marcus has matured since they first met. Introductions are over. They prepare to discuss their plans. The discussion of plans for the new atelier is about to begin. Daisy asked her new team to share their thoughts on the initial plans. Katia immediately sees a huge problem in their current design. She decisively points out the inappropriateness of shared housing for men and women. Katia firmly reminds Daisy that despite her youth, she is still a noblewoman. She insistently emphasizes how important it is to maintain a proper appearance. Daisy seems confused by this unexpected social complexity. Katia says that Daisy will always remain a noblewoman even if she becomes a merchant. She warns, improper behavior can tarnish the illustrious name of Priscilla. Chase and Daisy agrees to change the plan to a 3-story building. She asks with a trembling voice if she has missed any other important questions. And then the assistant brings research on the cost of building materials. Your reports say that recent wars have driven prices through the roof, and because of this, it has become very difficult. Daisy and Mina are stunned. The new sky-high estimate is simply shocking. Marcus sighs, even their government supplies do not cover this. He wonders should prices be raised, but Daisy cuts in, we cannot increase production. Mina suggests immediately starting to sell bread in an already existing store. Hatcher agrees to postpone construction plans and set out to find a suitable plot. Daisy trusts Cacho and he confidently takes on the task. After a few days, the carriage rattles along the country road. Inside, Katia asks if the little wolf is Daisy's familiar, Leaf. Daisy reveals that Leaf is a powerful wolf, stronger than any guard. Stop laughing and understand the amazing truth about the little wolf. Knock on the door and they are already at the first apartment. The real estate agent enthusiastically shows the premises in an attractive shopping district. Caution shakes his head, it's too small, and Daisy agrees it's not for them. They ask the agent to show them the next available property. As they leave, a suspicious figure watches them intently from a nearby alley. The second property is a large 3-story house in the noble quarter. The agent warns, due to the prime location, it will be very expensive. Hatcham decisively says, it's cheaper to build it themselves. Their search for the perfect place continues. They head to the next option. A 1-story house in the area of ordinary people will cost significantly less. Daisy looks at the place and feels it is spacious and versatile. Then they come to an abandoned wasteland, an empty plot of land where there is nothing. Taka waved it off. She says there are few people on the street. This is bad for business. The last object is a 3-story building standing right on the very edge of the district. The stylish central courtyard is presented as the main trump card. Daisy asks hopefully if there is a garden, but she is told there is none. She says with disappointment that she needs a field for her ingredients. Suddenly, their affairs were interrupted by a loud commotion. 3 sinister bandits appear and with a sly smile offer a fake apology for the interruption. The leader says he wants to do business with these girls. The agent bravely stood up to defend the girls because he immediately recognized those men as bandits. Suddenly, 3 sinister bandits emerge, and their leader notices a small white wolf. He mockingly brushed off their defense, calling him a skinny man and a sack of fleas. The second bald bandit glanced at the girls and boldly remarked how beautiful they were. Both rushed forward, shouting that a lot of money would be given for these girls. The flash of white fur, Leaf intercepts the leader and throws him back. The bald bandit froze in place in shock. His comrade was knocked down. Agent Daisy and Katja were simply left speechless by the sudden powerful attack. Pulling himself together, the bald bandit angrily pointed at the small, inconspicuous wolf. He lunged forward, cursing and swearing at her like a damn mongrel, and grabbed her fluffy head. With one powerful jerk, Leaf easily flipped the second attacker onto the ground. The third bandit panics and runs away, while Leaf watches and sighs with relief. The scene smoothly transitions to the street before us is the facade of the local real estate agency. Inside it was clear, Daisy and Catchell still hadn't found suitable real estate. Our agent ran in, shouting exciting news. He explains with a spark in his voice that the management found a plot of land that might suit their needs. Full of hope and excitement, both girls eagerly asked to see the new home right now. They approach the giant gates. On them is clearly written, Northwest Gate. The agent highlights the places where the flow of travelers and merchants constantly stretches. He points to a wide, fertile plot of land ideal for the fields they need. Both girls agree in unison this is the best place, but their hearts tighten. It is beyond their means. The agent says that for some reason the owner set it at a crazily low price. He names the price only 1/10 of similar listings, and it shocks them both. Don't you understand that at such a price they can afford to create their ideal Italian man? She immediately asks the agent if they can arrange a preliminary agreement. The agent smiled and calmly assured them there are no problems with the king acting as guarantor. Overflowing with joy, the girls happily celebrate their success and sincerely thank the agent for his help. Soon a voice sounded proclaiming, finally the time has come to begin. A cat girl named Mina asked with a trembling voice what is finally happening. Daisy, with a theatrical gesture, exclaims that it's time for them to bake a cake. She excitedly explains to Mina that they are preparing a surprise for her father, a birthday cake. Mina, who has never seen a cake, curiously asks if the cake is a super luxurious dessert. Daisy Wings joyfully tells her that she should be happy because they are using Chantilly cream. This confused Mina. She repeats the unfamiliar term to herself, Chantilly cream. Daisy explains that due to recent monster attacks she was constantly distracted, so she hadn't managed to do it earlier. Finally, she can use the centrifuge gifted to her by His Majesty. Mina is simply stunned that special equipment is needed for this, and Daisy sincerely admits that she is thrilled too. They decide to start their project to prepare a test batch of cream. In the kitchen, Daisy cheerfully announced, the first step is to mix the cake batter. She gently suggests pour into the gently warm eggs and sugar, stir until the mixture thickens. Next, they add flour to the mixture and stir vigorously until the white powder disappears. Mina adds butter and milk and kneads them energetically into the dough until the mixture becomes homogeneous. Finally, they pour the ready mixture into the cake pan, which is ready to go into the oven. While the cake is baking, Daisy suddenly exclaims, time to make Chantilly cream. He places the jar of milk into the centrifuge and prepares to start it. Then Mina is asked to turn the machine's handle again and again. Mina asks how long it will take, and Daisy says she will make an assessment to check how it is progressing. After a few minutes, Daisy tells her she can stop. It looks like everything is ready. Mina appears in the test tube and excitedly sees that the milk has separated into 2 layers. Daisy explains this is what happens when you separate the cream from the skimmed milk. She tells Mina that they will have to repeat the process to get enough cream for the cake. Smoke curls from the chimney of their house while they tirelessly work. Mina tasted the plain cream and grimaced. So far it is not tasty. Daisy patiently reminds her that sugar still needs to be added to the cream. The shot shows the outside of their workshops. The recognizable conical roof immediately catches the eye. On the table, already waiting the baked cake and a bowl of cream, ready for assembly. The little fairy is drawn like a magnet by the incredible smell. She smiles and says she has a 6th sense for sweets. Unable to resist the aroma, the fairy decided to try just a little bit of the cream. Her eyes widen in shock as soon as she tastes this rich sweet flavor. It hit her so hard that she buckled and fell to the floor in a state of bliss and a little dizzy. Daisy rushed to the side of the fairy, worried that she had fainted after tasting the cream. It turned out that Chantilly cream wildly intoxicates fairies. Daisy smiles with relief, realizing that the fairy just got drunk on cream. Mina decided that this cream for fairies is like alcohol, and it should be kept away from her. The little fairy is sound asleep. She was exhausted by the sweet treats. So Daisy proudly places a ready-test portion of snow-white cream on the cake. Daisy and Mina freeze for a moment and together taste their finished creation. While Mina is on cloud 9, Daisy feels that this sweetness is a bit too cloying. Mina agrees this is a luxurious problem, and she thinks about how to tone down this sweetness. Daisy suddenly came up with a brilliant idea. Let's balance it with some sour fruits. Menu suggests strawberries or oranges, and Daisy proposes taking both. The fruits not only balance the sweetness, they also turn the cake into a real decoration. Daisy took another bite, her cheeks puffed out, and she chewed thoughtfully. She feels that the balance is perfect, but something is missing inside the cake. Completely focused, she decides to try cutting the cake horizontally. They put a layer of fruit in the middle so that the taste of the fruit is felt in every bite. With the final touch, they exclaim that their fruit cake with Chantilly cream is ready. Looking at her home, Daisy hopes with all her heart that the cake will make her father happy tomorrow. The next evening, under a thin crescent moon, the celebration is about to begin. Daisy tells her father that they have a surprise for him, and it piques his curiosity. With a radiant smile, she presents the luxurious cake, wishing him a happy birthday. Her brothers and sisters froze, admiring the huge, dazzlingly white dessert. Her dad recognizes it as a fruit cake with chandelier cream. Her younger brother gasped. She baked the cake herself because they so rarely have sweets. Daisy beams with pride and cheerfully invites everyone to try a piece of her creation. Her sister excitedly notices what a beautiful fruit layer is revealed when the cake is cut. The shot pulls back and we see the family eagerly gathering to taste the special dessert. In the family home during the evening celebration, a quiet moment passes. Her brother smiles as he recalls how her first potion tasted simply awful. Daisy laughs and jokingly replies that his frightened expressions are just funny to watch. Her mother gently reminds her of the troubles her early mana bursts caused Kate. Her sister remembers how Daisy tirelessly trained mana control but never enchanted anything. Her brother notes that Daisy was the first among them to hunt a magical creature. Daisy denies it. She says it was a coincidence and brushes off all the hard work. Her brother sighs sadly. When he moves to the dormitory, he will miss her fluffy bread. Her sister picks up on this and promises to return only to eat her fluffy bun. A solitary figure stands on the balcony, gazing into the quiet night. Daisy lets out a satisfied yawn. She is pleased. The surprise was a success. Seeing her father outside, she decides that it is already time for her to go to bed. She goes out to the balcony to him and cannot believe her eyes. He is still awake at such a late hour. He smiles gently, thanks her for the wonderful day, and kindly warns her not to catch a cold. On the quiet balcony, Daisy's father, looking at the beautiful stars, quietly said that Remus will soon leave for the academy. Looking at the night sky, he suddenly realizes that Dahlia and Daisy will also soon leave home. With a thoughtful smile, he admits that he wants his children not to grow up so quickly. Daisy raises her eyes to him, her face softly relaxes, and she quietly calls him by name. Unable to hold back his feelings, the father suddenly hugs her tightly to himself. He gently strokes her head, and on his face is a father's love and a barely noticeable sadness. Holding her close, he confessed that he was worried about how to lift her spirits after the blessing ceremony. He remembers watching her run around the garden, assessing everything and so naturally adapting to her abilities. Surprised, Daisy asks if he really saw her doing it. A blush flared on her cheeks. He can hardly believe it, as if it was yesterday, and now she is already a recognized master of alchemy. With a sad look, he says that his time to spoil her like a child is coming to an end. Daisy apologized and admitted that she wants to stay a little longer with her parents. She equally passionately wants to become a better alchemist. Her father reassures her, "You have nothing to apologize for, live as you wish." He vows to always be Daisy's first and proudest supporter, the alchemist. Lowering her gaze, Daisy Shaley barely audibly asks if she can spend the night with him today. Her father's face softened, and a loving smile shone on it. He gladly agreed. He realizes that asking for such a thing is a special privilege of childhood. 2 years pass, and before the eyes stands the majestic outer wall of the city. In the noisy laboratory, a potion is violently boiling in a round-bottomed flask. The prepared potion is carefully poured through a funnel into a clean bottle. A hand gently places the freshly filled bottles on the shelf ready for sale. A small mark is placed under the delicate third one. This means the shop is ready. Standing proudly in the doorway, Daisy happily announces that her atelier is finally open. At the northern gates of Salzburg, a small group of travelers can be seen arriving. A fiery warrior raises her fist in the air, joyfully greeting their return home. Her companion grumbles that their last dungeon was a complete failure because she did not check the request. Suddenly, something at the end of the street caught the warrior's attention, and she stopped. She sees an impressive new building and wonders who opened an atelier in such a place. She suggests to the boss to replenish their depleted supplies there, and he agrees. A group of adventurers enters the shop, and the bell on the door rings, announcing their arrival. Inside, they are hospitably greeted by a spacious store with a bakery and an alchemy counter. The warrior points to the announcement and asks Daisy, does her potion really have a double effect? The squad leader was stunned when he heard that these potions are army supplies. He grimaced slightly and remarked on how expensive such quality items are. Daisy explains that the price is fair, their potency means less is needed in battle. The warrior agrees and mutters that cheaper potions hardly work, you have to drink several to feel any effect. Behind the bakery counter, a customer orders 4 fluffy buns, saying that local children simply adore them. Another client shouts an order for 2 sandwiches, and Mina immediately replies, "I'm on it." Mina happily hands the package of baked goods to the smiling customer. Warrior Manch happily notes that the atelier has become very popular in just a few weeks. The impressive multi-story workshop stands as living proof of its lightning-fast success. Daisy smiles contentedly behind the counter, thinking that the customer is still rushing to her. She tells Mina that she is going to the back room to work a bit, and Mina just nods. The bell rings again, and Mina returns with a warm smile to greet the next guest. An elderly woman with a gentle face, Mrs. Anna, smiled and greeted Mina, who came for another of her incredible sandwiches. Then Mrs. Anna anxiously asks if the alchemist Daisy is also doing well. Mina happily says that Daisy's things are insanely popular among adventurers going into the dungeons. Miss Anna sighs with relief and admits she was worried when a new alchemist appeared nearby. Mina proudly adds that during the recent cold spell, all the children in the neighborhood said, "Chamomile potion is the best." Miss Anna Chackles smiled and said that Daisy's long experience as an alchemist is immediately evident. She shifts her gaze to the display case and curiously asks if that is a special dish, chicken with rosemary and potatoes. Mina cheerfully gave a big thumbs up and added that the potatoes were just dug up. A wave of nostalgia washes over Miss Anna. She recalls that it was her favorite dish from her hometown. When Mina hands over the sandwich, she notices how Mrs. Anna wistfully remembers the cheese. Miss Anna thanks her and admits that in their region cheese is extremely hard to find. The scene shifts to the atelier balcony. This is a sign that the workday has ended. Mina finishes telling her friends about her conversation with Miss Anna. Daisy nods and says cheese is an imported luxury that can mostly be found only in the capital. Marcus thoughtfully considers that this is probably ordinary food in Miss Anna's hometown. Mina recalls that Miss Anna, lost in memories, looked lonely and missed home. Daisy listens pensively, with a worried expression on her face. Suddenly resolute, Daisy firmly says that they will make cheese sandwiches to see Miss Anna's smile again. Mina, though glowing with excitement, still asks a practical question: how will they get the cheese? Daisy Wings promise to figure out if it can be done by alchemy, and if so, it could become a new dish on the menu. That night, opening a book, Daisy learns that cheese is made by adding a substance to warm milk that curdles it. She learns that the usual coagulant is taken from the stomachs of calves, a method she cannot use. Her face lit up when she found an alternative, an extract from safflower seeds, which she can buy. The next day, the group sets off to a charming town in European style. They approach an impressive shop with a noticeable tower Mina guesses it is for merchants. Inside, they excitedly find a store full of the most diverse seeds and seedlings. Daisy feverishly scans a wall of drawers searching for the southflower she needs. A smiling salesman approaches them and asks if he can help them find something. Daisy politely asks for some safflower, pointing to the drawers. The man explains that it is kept in the back and asks her to wait a moment. The shop is packed to the brim with various potted plants, flowers, and tall vases. The salesman returns with a giant bag and explains that this is the smallest quantity they sell. His question about planting time draws Daisy's attention to several tomato seedlings nearby. He explains that if they are planted right now, by summer large fruits can already be harvested. Daisy wonders if her family will be happy with fresh tomatoes after all. They can also be added to Mina's bread. Spontaneously, she tells the seller, who is delighted, that she will also take the seedlings. Next morning, a scream of shock rang out outside the atelier. Marcus sprawled on the ground, his face full of astonishment. From the upper window, Daisy calls to Marcus, "What happened?" He desperately points to the garden, stumbling as he says that the fairy is growing. Daisy and Mina rush to the door, puzzled what is going on here. The fairy called Daisy by name and she, stunned, instantly raised her eyes. The fairy now seems like a mightier spirit striking a pose and announcing that she was promoted thanks to the amazing field. Daisy froze speechless, her hand pressed to her mouth as she tries to comprehend the word spirit. The spirit, recently promoted, giggles, saying that now she can do cool things, and creates a ball of light. With a light flick of her finger, she directs the magical light straight onto the young tomato seedlings. The sprouts instantly transform into mature vines, heavy with large, perfectly ripe tomatoes. Mina is completely confused, saying that the tomatoes were planted only yesterday. Daisy explains this incredible power of instant growth is exactly what spirits can do. Mina calls this spectacle incredible, and the little spirit proudly puffs out its chest, basking in the praise. When the morning hustle died down, a closed sign was hung on the atelier door. Daisy, though shocked, announced that it was time to start making cheese. She begins by adding a little safflower coagulant to a pot of warmed milk. Slowly watching the mixture, she excitedly notices that curds are starting to form. As soon as the mixture sets, Daisy pours it through a cloth to strain it. Having successfully prepared homemade crumbly cheese, Daisy serves it to Mina, who does not hide her admiration. Daisy admits her skill in judging was crucial. It allowed her to monitor the temperature and time. With a determined look, Mina sincerely thanks Daisy for her incredibly useful ability. Suddenly, Daisy's unique ability sparks a new idea, a cream cheese recipe. Learning that it can be mixed with cream, Daisy eagerly suggested, "Let's try." The new cream cheese turned out to be a real hit, and Daisy happily notes how versatile it is. Mina thoughtfully imagines how this spicy cheese can be spread on sandwiches. Looking at their creations, it suddenly realizes none of them is the stretchy cheese that Mrs. Anna talked about. Daisy confidently winked and reassured her, it's just part of the process. She begins the final stage, immersing the fragile cheese in a pot of hot water. Mina then energetically kneads the hot mixture with a spatula until it becomes elastic. As soon as the cheese is ready, she carefully divides it into portions and cools it in ice water. Her efforts yielded a tray of perfectly smooth, shiny, round cheeses. Daisy nods. This is exactly what is needed, and she is going to suggest making a sandwich with the cheese. Under the evening sky, the studio fell silent after a productive day. Mina from the upper floor called down and happily told Katia that she arrived just in time. Entering the building, Katia says she came to sort out the papers from the accounting department. A delicious aroma descended the stairs and instantly caught Kodia's attention. She stumbles upon a real feast of sandwiches and desserts, and Mina calls her to taste. Kodia bit off a piece, and her eyes widened. She recognized the incredible taste of cheese. Daisy proudly says that with her alchemical skills, she created this rare cheese. Enthralled, Kodia says that Daisy's alchemy is a miracle that is revolutionizing the market and can do everything. She enthusiastically praises the dish, a real sensation, confident that Miss Anna will be impressed. Their creations are finally perfect, so they decide to invite Miss Anna to dinner. Finally, the day of the long-awaited party at the Atelier has arrived. Miss Anna is greeted at the door. Her face is full of surprise at all these preparations. She looks at the table with admiration and asks if everything is really made of cheese. Daisy proudly shows she made everything herself, using a plant-based coagulant. Miss Anna asks in shock, is such a method really possible? Daisy warmly invites her to eat, and the grateful Miss Anna gladly agrees. Later that evening, cheerful chatter of conversations comes from the house. After the meal, Miss Anna sincerely thanks them for the incredibly delicious food. She notes their kindness and aloud wonders, will I be able to pass on my knowledge to Daisy? Daisy raises her eyes, confused and surprised by the sudden serious proposal. Miss Anna confessed that she was an alchemist, a master of metal synthesis and explosive creation. The revelation shocks Daisy, who repeats the term alchemic metallurgy in disbelief. In memory, it emerges how her creations, instead of protection, were tragically turned into weapons for war. She says that the pain from this abuse forced her and her colleagues to flee. With a worried look, Daisy asked if her husband accompanied her. Miss Anna sadly recounts that he stayed behind and she never saw him again. The gloomy chamomile quietly says that she understood this tragic story. Then Mrs. Anna solemnly offers to give her books and her alchemical cauldron. She sighs and says that she has no children, and she is already too old for such hard work. Daisy hesitates, on her face is anxiety, despite the incredible offer. She confesses once she created a serum of truth, because of which a man was executed. She looked down and admitted, a heavy burden lies on her heart, she indirectly took someone's life. She admits that she could not bear the news that her creation led to someone's death. She understands that a coward like her does not deserve this knowledge. Anastasia listens with closed eyes and a calm expression, absorbing this heavy confession. Then she says to the surprised Marguerite that the alchemist should be more careful. Anastasia looks at the situation differently and says that the serum protected the king and his close ones. She gently reminds Daisy that their country is just and ruled by a good king. From her words it was clear, Daisy by her actions actually saved many lives. Daisy quietly imagines the grim scenario that would have occurred if the culprit had not been found. Unlike her own past, Anastasia emphasizes that Daisy's potion was used to protect. A warm hand gently rests on Daisy's palm, quietly giving her comfort. Anastasia says that power and tools are a double-edged sword. They can be used for both good and evil. She advises Daisy to trust her heart and to put her tools in good hands. Smiling, she says that doubting one's own actions is right. Overwhelmed with emotions, Daisy presses her hands to her chest, deeply moved. With new determination, she officially asks Anastasia to become her teacher. Anastasia rejoices. She is confident that soon Daisy will become an even more amazing alchemy master. Shining with determination, Daisy promised to give her all. A few days later, the action moves to Anastasia's cozy rural workshop. Anastasia places a heavy stack of books on the table for her new student. Daisy, thank you endlessly for all the equipment and the pile of reading material. Her new mentor explains that this is only the beginning of what she still needs to learn. Anastasia asked her to return as soon as she arranges everything in her workshop. The screen shows the exterior of Daisy's atelier, and a new chapter begins. After setting everything up and exhausting herself, Daisy flopped onto the bed to rest a little. Suddenly, a sphere of light appears in her room, and magical vines begin to grow around it. A strange phenomenon woke Daisy. She sat up sharply, confused and surprised. From the winding vines swirling in the ethereal light, a majestic figure slowly emerges. The Emerald King of Spirits appears and warmly greets the stunned Daisy. He smiles, noticing that she seems to have found herself a wonderful mentor. Daisy confirms that she is beginning to learn metalworking in the anesthesiology department. To mark this important event, the king solemnly said that he would give her a gift and his blessing. He gently placed 3 beautiful, exquisitely decorated spheres into her open palms. Daisy's eyes lit up as she admired how incredibly beautiful these precious stones were. The King of Spirits adds that he will slightly improve her ability to evaluate. He gently placed his hand on her head, and this kind gesture caught her by surprise. A dazzling flash of light burst from his palm. He was giving a powerful blessing. The blessing ended, and looking at the puzzled Azzy, he said that the task was completed. He said goodbye to her. His image began to scatter into light leaves. Daisy watches him disappear, and suddenly the room becomes completely silent. She is left alone. She looks down at the mysterious spheres in her palms and thinks with excitement, what could this be? And during the evaluation, it turned out that these were protective stones that dream of becoming jewelry. Daisy is confused. Her new strange ability to read the thoughts of objects frightens and confuses her. Soon in Anastasia's workshop, Anastasia exclaimed in surprise upon seeing these stones. She admires the aura of the stone, gentle, yet extraordinarily powerful. Daisy quietly says that these are protective stones. Their power is simply sleeping now. Anastasia's notes, it is warned, most raw stones need to be processed for their powers to awaken. Daisy conveys the strange desire of the stone to merge with metal and become jewelry. Anastasia raises her hand and stops her mid-sentence, a clear embarrassment on her face. She asked how Daisy could even know the name of the stone, its properties, and what it wants. Confused, Daisy suddenly remembers that she forgot to tell the mentor about her ability to appraise. She decides that she can no longer hide such an important secret from her teacher. Looking at the city from above, Daisy begins to excitedly talk about her special ability. Through the workshop window, Anastasia is visible. She stands in deep shock from this news. She finds the combination of an alchemist and an appraisal that senses feeling strange. Daisy says that her new ability to evaluate appeared quite recently and became a huge shock for her. Her mentor Anastasia thoughtfully considers that combining Daisy with another child might yield interesting results. Hearing this, curious Daisy raises her head and asks aloud who this other child is. Anastasia waved off her mumbling and asked if the feelings of gemstones are always the same. Shrugging, Daisy admits that she hasn't really figured it out yet. Deciding to find out, Anastasia suggests they conduct a small experiment right now. She pulls out a gold ingot and, with a sparkle in her eyes, offers to check their compatibility by bringing it closer. Anastasia explains her method of sensing auras and what might be the advantage of Daisy's. With the gold in place, Anastasia stays if the evaluation results have changed. Daisy looks intently, eyes wide open, as she understands the first reaction of the stone. She says that the stone feels, gold is good, but something is wrong. Anastasia listens, rubbing her chin, thoughtfully pondering the strange, subtle response. Daisy says that the stone feels it will be accepted gently, even before they try silver. Her mentor notices that the new metal seems to perfectly get along with the stones. When she tests platinum, the stone considers it stylish, but it is not to their taste. Anastasia notices that the stone is not at all delighted and is already preparing to try another metal. She brings the iron ingot closer, and the stones politely but decisively push it away. Brass, mithril, adamantite, and orichalcum met the same disdainful reaction. Daisy looks at this and sadly says that they have brought the precious stone to tears. Anastasia suggests that the sinister properties of silver might turn out to be the perfect match. Daisy suddenly realizes that each metal has its own unique properties. Her mentor asked if she would be glad to try combining the stones with silver. Daisy enthusiastically agrees, finally ready to test the new combination. Their work was interrupted. A voice called from the door, "Daisy." The young man in armor, Mark, warmly greets Daisy and says they haven't seen each other for a long time. Daisy responded to the greeting, happy to see him, and immediately asked about his companion Licha. Mark simply waved his hand behind his back as if to say his partner is really nearby. Lydia, a beautiful woman with long dark hair, lifted her eyes from her work. Mark explains to Anastasia that he and Laisha were looking for work and were ready to take on a task. He explains that this request is tricky. Their target deals insidious attacks that impose harmful conditions. Anastasia hints that Daisy and another child might soon have a solution for them. Hearing this, the Mark decides they will set up a base at their place and wait. He hands Anastasia a tavern card in case of news so they can be informed. After a brief meeting, travelers Mark and Lady leave Daisy's atelier. The frame shows an impressive multi-story building housing the young alchemist's shop. Inside, Anastasia approached Daisy and asked with lively interest if she is using the alchemical cauldron for the first time. With a determined expression, she announces that she will teach her apprentice the basics. The first thing she says is to throw all the necessary materials into a large cauldron. Then Anastasia shows how to light the magical stove using special magical coals. The stove roared to life, its powerful source of heat ignited. While adjusting the squeaky manometer, she explains that the pressure must be closely monitored. In the cauldron, the guardian stone and silver begin to melt and boil together. Anastasia looks pleased. The conditions are finally perfect for the process. She hands Daisy a pair of thick gloves and warns about the burning heat. The young alchemist is given a special stirring rod that conducts mana perfectly. Her mentor guides her, stir slowly and imagine a strong bond. Daisy focuses intently, putting all her attention into making the mixture smooth and powerful. She decides to use the skill of appraisal to check if her efforts are yielding results. The molten liquid in the cauldron boiled and swirled as long as she continued stirring. Her appraisal reveals it is gardenium, but unfortunately its quality is disappointing. Daisy thinks that the whole process somehow makes her a cupid for the gemstone. Wiping sweat from her forehead, she feels that the connection is still too weak. Hearing a hint in the appraisal, she decides to wrap her magic more tightly. A powerful surge of magical energy suddenly began swirling around the cauldron. The magic flared with a quiet force, and its sudden intensity unexpectedly impressed Anastasia. Her mentor exclaims that Daisy's aura has just become incredibly strong. Stroking her student's head, she marvels excitedly. Daisy mastered the technique on the first try. The process is complete. Anastasia announced that she will now extract the form. She turns a small valve on the side of the heated cauldron. The glowing molten alloy carefully pours into a rectangular ingot mold. From the shiny, perfectly formed ingot of new metal, steam curls. New assessment leaves no doubt Gordinium is now of the highest quality. Daisy wonders isn't creating alloys like matchmaking, while Anastasia is still mesmerized. The work is finished. Astasia suggested taking the material to the blacksmith. The group walks through the cozy town and approaches the workshop with a conical roof. Daisy learns with excitement that they will see the talented granddaughter of Anastasia's friend. The elderly woman enthusiastically praises the amazing creations of the young acquaintance, sure that her companion will like them. Approaching the workshop, she had already reached out to knock but was joyfully greeted from inside. The young, friendly blacksmith with reddish-brown hair opens the door and explains that her grandfather is not home right now. The shot shows the exterior of Rin's workshop, a building with a recognizable pointed roof. Anna decisively explains the purpose of their visit is not an order but to introduce someone. A cheerful young woman says about herself, "I am Rin, a dwarf and a blacksmith." The blonde with a flower hairpin in her hair smiles and says that she is Daisy, an alchemist. Daisy and her wolf both amusingly froze at Ren's impressive stature. Rin cheerfully remarked that she and Daisy are the same height because they are different species. It seemed like a click went off in Daisy's head. She suddenly realized everything when Rin explained her age. Anna proudly praises Rin. Her skill is incredible and versatile, from delicate decorations to heavy armor. Rin, intrigued by the unique material they brought, invites them to the back room. In a narrow shot, the conical roof of the workshop emerges as they enter inside. With a soft click, Anna opens the door to the back room. Her face twisted in shock as if demanding an answer. What is happening inside? From the floor, her eyes involuntarily drift upward to the wooden ceiling beams. A muscular, dark-haired spirit suddenly appears behind the surprised smile of her roaring wolf. The Spirit King Or and the Emerald Spirit King tease each other, throwing sharp remarks about their wards. Daisy, stunned, asked Rin, "Do you also have a king of spirits?" Rin, no less stunned, asked Daisy the same about her guardian. The King of the Earth Spirit angrily objected when his colleague called Rin a dwarf. He proudly says that Rin is not just an ordinary gnome, but of royal blood. The Emerald King of Spirits easily responds, enthusiastically praising his talented and successful daughter Daisy. He keeps praising Daisy's intelligence, diligence, and compassion, and she is only puzzled by this. The King of the Earth Spirits accusatorily points at Lee and insists that Rin is just as compassionate. He passionately describes that strong, beautiful look in Rin's eyes when she forges metal. The King of the Emerald Spirit sharply cut in that Daisy is the same. He gushes with delight, talking about that charming, radiant smile of Daisy after a successful experiment. Two kings of spirits argue closely, nose to nose, and their wolf companions growl at their feet. Daisy and Ren stand in awkward confusion, trying to figure out what is going on. A wide shot shows the roofs of the city where this strange meeting unfolds. The King of the Earth Spirits admits that he saw Ren's little secret joyful dance, and she is shocked. The Emerald King of Spirits describes Daisy's cute, focused expression, and she suddenly realizes it in horror. Angry, the two girls point fingers and exclaim that the King of Spirits has crossed the line with his spying. The King of the Earth Spirits coughs, confident that their cooperation will produce something interesting. Having asked to take care of his renbai, he suddenly disappears and she loudly protests. His counterpart, the Emerald King of Spirits, calmly agreed. Of course, their work will be wonderful. He asks Ren to get along with Daisy and simply vanishes, leaving her irritated. An awkward silence froze in the workshop. The girls and their companions sighed simultaneously. And Grandma Anna was overwhelmed with emotions. She felt blessed to witness two kings of spirits. Rin breaks the silence and reminds everyone that they came to see something important. Grandma Hannah is glowing with excitement and tells Daisy to show Rin their incredible new alloy. Smoke gently curls from the chimney of Rin's special workshop with a conical roof. Taking in, Rin was stunned to feel the anomalous protective power radiating from it. She wonders if it could create true national treasures, while Grandmother Anna enthusiastically praises her sharp eye. Daisy explains it was made from silver and the guardian stone of the King of Spirits. Ryan suggests a small everyday accessory, but worries it will reduce the effect. Daisy reassures her with a smile. The power of the stone will not diminish even if it is split. Rin thoughtfully examines the pendant and bracelet, but ultimately decides the best is a ring. She smiles, points to the ingot, and says it will be enough for many items, then asks Daisy how many she needs. Daisy counted her friends and relatives, then suggested giving some to the kings. Winking, Rin offers to take part of the material as her payment for the work. Daisy is delighted by the offer. She gives a thumbs up and thanks her friend. New anxiety grips Daisy. So many powerful items might end up in the wrong hands. Rin simply smiles with quiet confidence, as if suspecting nothing. Hey, escapes from her lips. Grandmother Onyx explains that it is here that Rin's unique abilities truly shine. Rin holds the plate on Dorn's bracelet and looking carefully makes sure it is not enchanted. She slides the bracelet. On its inner side is carved an exquisite, unfamiliar inscription. Daisy looks on, her eyes full of surprise and burning curiosity. Rin points to the strange letters on the inner surface of the bracelets, drawing Daisy's attention. Daisy admits she sees the inscription but does not recognize the language. Winking, Rin mysteriously says that it is ancient writing from the Kingdom of Dwarves. Daisy is stunned. She is looking at ancient writing. Rin explains that this inscription does not allow anyone with an evil heart to use its power. She adds only she herself can cast or remove this spell. Daisy cannot hide her admiration for Rin's incredible, unique power. Rin waved off the compliment, blushing and pretending to be modest. Plan is decided. Rin promised to make the rings and deliver them immediately. Looking at the city, Daisy says impatiently that she can't wait for the final result. Daisy's tall wooden frame Atelier emerges as a silhouette against the sky. He hung a bell on jingles and Daisy lifts her head from the counter. Rin entered, cheerfully waving her hand, and greeted Daisy after some time apart. Daisy beams with a smile, hospitably welcoming her friend Rin in the Atelier. She asks in surprise if the rings are already ready and Rin confidently replies, yes. Daisy, hinting that they need privacy for the exchange, invites Rin upstairs. Upstairs, the thirsty Rain greedily drinks a glass of refreshing water. She sighs with relief, feeling the daytime heat recede and filling her with inspiration and new strength. With a clink, Rin placed 5 shiny silver rings on the table for her to see. Winking, she chooses one of the rings and hands it to Daisy herself. Daisy's eyes sparkle with light as she gazes enchanted at the master's beautiful work. When she looked closer at the ring, she was suddenly struck with realization. When it was appraised, it became clear, this is a protection ring. It blocks all status effects. Daisy froze in amazement and exclaimed that Rin had done something incredible again. Rin proudly puffs out her chest. She agrees, the rings turned out incredible. She admits that she constantly came up with new ideas, inspired by how much depends on trust Daisy. Then Daisy decides she needs to tell Rin something important. Rin is still thrilled with her creation, unable to believe how wonderfully everything turned out. Daisy worries that other travelers will consider it unfair if only her 2 friends can buy it. Rin, after asking, suddenly realizes that Daisy does not know who her real friends are. She leans in, revealing that Lydia and Mark are the protectors of this country. The diagram shows the rank system of the Adventurers Guild, the pyramid from F to S. At the very peak is the S level. There are only 3 such adventures in the world. Rin explains that Lady and Mark are a rank. They take on tasks that knights cannot handle. Daisy froze in amazement. She had never suspected that her friends could be so incredibly powerful. Rin realizes their mission is to exterminate the magical monster, and that is why they are called guardians. In a short abstract panel, a powerful cutting movement is visible. Daisy recalls if the Emerald Spirit King had not appeared, it would have ended in disaster. She asks, does this mean they are stronger than the Royal Knights or the Mage Corps? Rin explains that what matters more here is who is better suited against a specific opponent. She adds that the strongest among knights and mages are quite on par with A rank. Daisy proudly understands what this means. Her father is just as incredible. Then with unrestrained curiosity, she asks Rin how she plans to price such powerful things. Rin admits they have already become national treasures and she feels embarrassed to take a large fee. Daisy insists that Rin accept the ring. After all, it was her skills that were needed to create them. Rin gratefully accepts the generous offer. A happy blush flashes across her face. Daisy later cannot contain her curiosity and thinks, how much would her other friends sell an item of the National Treasure class for? Rin claps her hands and suggests in exchange to ask for an unlimited number of requests for accompaniment. Daisy says worriedly because she knows her friends are always very busy. Rin insists this is a profitable purchase, a national value that you cannot buy in a store. Daisy agrees that these terms might be suitable and decides to bargain. Plans are agreed upon. Rin suggests without wasting time to put on their new rings. A sudden puff made Rin flinch. 2 figures appeared behind her back. Mark, the king of the earth spirit, smoothly offers to put the ring on her. He gently takes her hand, preparing to slide the ring onto her finger. Rin suddenly feels shock when he sees which finger he chose. He jumped back in embarrassed surprise, and he remained completely puzzled. She shouts to the king of spirits, wait, but he doesn't understand what's wrong. The Emerald Spirit King Lydia notices that he is behaving as if this is an engagement ring. Lettuce slyly gently asks Daisy, will you allow me to put the ring on your left hand? Daisy pretends to know nothing. A sweet, innocent smile diverts the conversation from the question. Rin sharply refuses Mark, and he looks with amusing despair. He sighs, lamenting that he only wanted to scare away the pests. Two spirit kings grieve, their children have become so cold. Daisy and Rin look down at their hands, a little embarrassed after this exchange. Ikyu decides that since the girls made the rings, they should add their blessings. Bright light shines when she touches the rings, it becomes the real surprise of the day. The evaluation report has been updated. A protective barrier now operates on Daisy's ring and a warning is displayed. Prince's ring receives a similar update, it is now named after their Earth Spirit King. Daisy froze speechless, she realized that she had been given yet another crazy blessing. She thinks that the Spirit Kings have taken over the thoughts section, filling it with their warnings. A few days later, Daisy rides her wolf towards a familiar town. On her day off, she comes to the home of the stately Persleria family. She pushes open the large doors and joyfully exclaims, "I'm home." Her older brother Ramos immediately pulls her into a tight, excited embrace. Older brother Remus tightly hugged young Daisy in a close embrace. He exclaims that something incredible has happened to his magic because of her. Remus excitedly reports that his magical power turned out to be the highest in the Academy's history, all thanks to her advice. Their mother appears in the doorway and remarks on the lively commotion from their reunion. Parents enter the room, and the mother notices that Daisy has gotten caught up in Remus's whirlwind. Their father admits that he was genuinely scared when both of his children left home. Overcome with emotion, he wipes a tear and says that he and their mother are very proud. In the corner, their younger sister Dahlia peeks, delighted by her brother's success. Their father encourages Dahlia, saying that her future will be bright if she continues to train. Daisy jokingly teases Remus, his new record won't last long once Dahlia joins. At the table, Daisy happily told everyone that she brought gifts for each of them. On the screen appears the majestic multi-story family home of the Persleria family. The whole family gathered around the table, and Daisy, smiling, hands a gift to her younger sister. Dahlia carefully examines the ring, feels incredible power in it, and asks if it is a magical artifact. Father proudly notes that his youngest daughter has an unusually sharp sense of magic. Daisy explains that the ring wards off illnesses and heals it, was made to protect her family. Father suddenly stood up with a shocked expression on his face, asked her to wait a minute. He suddenly realizes, if she is right, those rings are genuine national treasures. Daisy was confused, she doesn't know where to start with her long story. Father insists such an incredible thing must first be shown to the royal family. Daisy calmly and confidently reassures him, because she has already told the king that she intends to offer them. Mother thinks that therefore it is quite acceptable for them to accept this gift. Father thinks for a moment and sighing agrees she is right. Dahlia beams with a smile when Father gratefully agrees to wear the ring she made. Mother gently reminds, thank everyone who helped create these valuable things. Daisy smiles and confirms that she has already taken care of it. Suddenly a thought struck her, she must not forget to thank the Emerald King of Spirits. Her friend Rin adds, she still hasn't thanked the one who gave her the Guardian Stone. With a resolute good, the scene ends with a shot of the family home. The narrative shifts to the street, to Ren's workshop, a house with a conical roof. Inside, Daisy tells Ren's she wants to make a gift as a token of gratitude for the Spirit Kings. Ren amusingly shoos away the invisible Spirit Kings, telling them not to peek at the surprise. Daisy joins the conversation and exclaims that their plan must remain a secret. Daisy, with a worried expression, quietly asks herself if their plan will really work. Daisy pulls herself together and confirms that they can continue the conversation. She suggests making a gift together, something like the rings they wear. Rin is excited about the idea and offers to take on the crafting, while Daisy handles sorting the metal. Rin asks about the design, and Daisy confirms she is again leaning towards making rings. Daisy thoughtfully agrees, surely the Spirit Kings would be delighted with matching rings. Rin moves on to the next step, choosing which materials to take. Daisy, a little embarrassed, admitted that she did not know where to look and asked Rin if she knew any good shops. Rin's face lit up when she exclaimed that she knew the perfect place. Next day, the girls stroll with their familiars Leif and Leon, who seem relaxed. Rin explains that their masters, the Spirit Kings, were once at odds with each other. Leif, slightly embarrassed, jokingly says that this task is because of their master's quarrel. Walking through the city, Rin smilingly says that they are almost there. He points to the district where shops trade special guild goods. Rin, with a sparkle in her voice, tells Daisy about a specialized store she often uses in her work. The bell rang cheerfully as the two young women entered the cozy shop. A friendly bearded shopkeeper cheerfully greets Rin and her friend. He asked if Rin was looking for more materials for work, and she confirmed. The seller smiles and invites them to look around the shop, showing new supplies in the display window. Daisy became interested in the appraisal certificates and wondered if they were really confirmed by some experienced user. The shopkeeper chuckles and says that he would really like to meet someone with such skill someday. He confidently tells them these certificates are issued by a specialist. They guarantee that the item is genuine. Daisy's gaze stopped at the wooden drawers next to the display case. The seller explains there are damaged or not yet appraised items which are sold cheaply as a surprise. Daisy's eyes sparkle with excitement at the very thought of treasure hunting. The seller encourages them, don't rush, take a good look around. Daisy looks at the items in the main display case without any enthusiasm. The certificates are there, but there is no interest. Instead, she decides to rummage through the wooden drawers, hoping to come across something truly special. She gently slid one of the drawers and looked inside. Inside, various stones clinked, but Rin noticed that none of them gave an amazing effect. Rin pulls out a special stone and asks Daisy what she thinks about it. The stone was recognized as a paired stone, and Daisy could not believe that such a thing even existed. Daisy smiles and explains, such a stone would create a completely different impression. Rin winked, fully understanding and agreeing with Daisy's assessment. Daisy nods thoughtfully and says that this stone is not suitable for their gift. Without stopping, Daisy moves on to another drawer, her curiosity piqued again. Rin eagerly leaned closer and asked if she had found something interesting. Daisy looked around and it turned out it was a lucky stone that calls happiness and drives away misfortune. She notices a strange range of qualities and suggests that it changes depending on what it is combined with. Daisy quietly whispered to Rin the name of the new, promising stone. Rin joyfully gives a thumbs up and decisively says that they should definitely choose that one. Daisy glanced at the remaining alloy and wondered if they could also make 4 pendants from it. Rin assures, based on their previous ingot, they should have more than enough material. Daisy realizes this means that she can also give gifts to friends as a token of gratitude. Behind the counter, Daisy decisively confirms the purchase of the luck stone. Then she asked the shopkeeper hopefully if he had gold or silver ingots for her vision. The seller smoothly slid the drawer aside and looked at what he had in stock. He hands them trial coins made of pure gold, silver, and mithril. Daisy decides to test whether the luck stone gets along with different metals. Holding the silver coin closer, the stone glowed with a soft, kind light. But the gold coin made the stone emit a thin negative smoke. The thoughts of the stones confirm even gold and silver do not get along with each other. Finally, mithril made the stone blush. The stone's thoughts seem to express readiness for a new stage. Mithril coin once again proves that it is the perfect partner capable of unlocking the full potential of this stone. The shot transitions to the outside of Daisy's atelier, a 2-story building silently standing on the street. In her workshop, Daisy puts on thick gloves. They quietly creaked. Holding a stirrer in her hand, she decisively says that her part of the process is the first. An ingot of mithril and a lucky stone plopped into a large cauldron. She adds reagent powder to the mixture and the alchemical process begins. Flipping through the book, she notices that mithril is incredibly sensitive to magic, but she sadly complains about the vague instructions. An hour flies by as she diligently works by the cauldron. Waving the pan tensely, Daisy sees that the materials have finally melted, but she has almost no strength left. In the decorated cauldron, the molten mixture steams thickly over a weak fire. She looked closely and saw a new low-quality alloy called fortunium. It needs a stronger bond. With fresh determination, she sincerely pleads, "May this metal bring happiness to everyone." Smoke gently curls from the atelier chimney as she finishes her work. With the last focused effort, she pours the glowing molten fortunium into the ingot mold. With one final focused movement, molten metal is poured into a rectangular mold for ingots. When it was checked, it turned out the new alloy is fortunium, an exceptionally high-quality material that wards off misfortune. The final touch is placed on the table, and Daisy joyfully celebrates her success. Wiping sweat from her forehead, she happily plans to take the ingot to Rin for processing. 2 weeks later, Rin appears at Daisy's atelier, carrying a delivery for her friend. She theatrically reveals the finished rings and pendants, and Daisy freezes at their beauty. The plaque announces that these are rings and pendants of luck of the highest quality. Rin explains with a smile that these versatile pendants can be worn both as chokers and as bracelets on a chain. Overflowing with joy, Daisy grabs Rin's hands and enthusiastically praises her incredible, absolutely perfect work. Standing near the atelier, the 2 girls decided it was time to call their guests. Face to face with determined smiles, Rin and Daisy prepared to summon them. Cupping their hands near their mouths, they call out in unison to the Spirit Kings. In a flash of light, 2 Spirit Kings appeared and joyfully shouted the girls' names. The light-haired king lunges at Daisy with an embrace, while Rin skillfully dodges the other's lunge. Daisy explains that they made rings as a gift and, with hope in her voice, hopes the kings will accept them. The king of the Emerald Spirit cannot hide his joy how lucky he is to receive a gift from his beloved child. With a gentle movement, Daisy carefully slips the new ring onto the Spirit King's finger. He gently kisses her hand, thanks her, and promises to keep this precious ring forever. And he says he must leave due to important matters and instantly disappears into the whirl of light. Suddenly, Daisy shudders as she realizes he knew about the pendants she had not yet mentioned. Rin casually said all right, confirming her suspicion that he was eavesdropping on them. Later, already in the atelier, Rin pays Daisy for today's work. Saying she is going home, Rin waved goodbye and Daisy sincerely thanked her for everything. Then Daisy glances at the rest of her employees sitting at the table. She sincerely thanks everyone for their hard work, and after a long day they warmly exchange pleasant words. With a radiant smile, she extends a box of pendants as a token of gratitude. Mina, the meanest of the girls, indignantly says that they are just servants and do not need such gifts. Colleague Marcus agreed and smiled, noting that they are already paid more than fairly. Daisy explains that these are lucky talismans that protect them, and it is important to her. Mina is noticeably touched by this caring gesture and looks attentively at the pendant in her hands. Her eyes fill with tears, she sniffs moved to tears by this kindness. Suddenly Mina threw her arms around Daisy in a tight hug and joyfully exclaimed how happy she is. Mark hesitantly asks if he will get one too. He doubts if it is really okay. Daisy smiled warmly, reassured him, and gently called him an important friend. Humboldt Marcus accepts the kind offer with sincere gratitude and warmly thanks Lady Daisy for the gift. Daisy turned to the last friend, Kadia, who was enthusiastically nibbling her snack. She sincerely praises Kadia for flawless management, which made their magnificent atelier possible. Daisy extends the pendant, hoping it will bring Kadia great luck in her endeavors. Kadia protests, insisting that she cannot accept it. She is not a real employee. Daisy presents it as a personal gift from one friend to another, not as a business deal. Kadia was left speechless, a blush flared on her cheeks at the word friend. She looks at the beautiful, sparkling pendant in her hands. It is clear how much it touched her. A little embarrassed, Kadia sincerely thanks Daisy for the incredibly thoughtful gift. She admits, although she knew they were friends, it was the first time they were alone together. Emboldened, Kadia asks Daisy, please stop addressing me formally. Daisy happily agrees, hoping they will continue to get along well as true friends. Kadia's face shines with happiness. She willingly agrees to a new level of friendship. When Daisy asks if Kadia will do the same, she categorically refuses, saying their social status does not allow it. After some time, a new culinary project is about to begin at Daisy's atelier. Daisy asks her friend Mina with cat ears for a favor, and Mina gladly agrees to help. She happily says that she will soon present rings to the king and wants to bring Chantley cream treats. Mina is shocked and delighted at the very thought that His Majesty will taste her creation. Full of energy, she exclaims that she will take her recipe books and rushes upstairs. Daisy thinks that her enthusiasm for cooking is amazing, considering her huge collection of cookbooks. She thoughtfully decides that from now on she will buy cookbooks through Kodia's business instead. Mina returned and threw a heavy pile of books on the table. They fell with a dull thud. Peeking out from among the books, Daisy suggests baking a tart or cake similar to the one before. Mina anxiously notes that delivering a delicate cake with soft cream is a real hassle. Daisy suddenly wonders, might there be a more suitable dessert that would solve their transportation problem? Quickly flipping through the book, Mina comes across a promising recipe and points to it. Daisy, intrigued, asks if this is the recipe for the same pastry called choux. Mina, with a sparkle in her eyes, suggests filling the plump, tasty shoe-shaped pastries with Chantley cream. Daisy gladly agrees, a wonderful idea. They will be easy to carry and eat. They decide to name their new creation Choux Cream and include it in the gifts. The scene shifts to the majestic royal castle Grand Saltenberg, where the official presentation is to take place. The king warmly welcomes Daisy and notes that quite some time has passed since they last met. Daisy happily says that her shop is thriving. There are more employees and customers than ever before. Wasting no time, she hands him a box with her new costumes for him to try on. She opens the box. Choux creams peek out from under the lid, and she says they need to be kept cold. King beams with joy, confident that his entire family will gladly enjoy these delicious treats. Then Daisy extends a second, more elegant box. Inside are rings for his family. King took tweezers and, admiring one item enthusiastically, cannot get enough of its incredible beauty and craftsmanship. The disguised royal appraiser Heinrich Gasp instantly recognized the powerful artifact. The king inquisitively asks Heinrich what he has learned about the properties of the ring. Heinrich reported his assessment. these are rings of protection that ward off all bad conditions. King was stunned. How could these tiny rings possess such incredible and so diverse powers? Heinrich affirmatively confirms their power and insists that the king immediately wear one. The king is delighted and praises Daisy for having learned to create such incredible magical things. Daisy smiles and modestly says that this work is the merit of her extraordinarily skilled friend the blacksmith. Queen understands if the rings save from bad conditions, then they can be used otherwise as well. Daisy is seriously worried the young prince could be in trouble again. King reassures her, "That is another matter, my children are fine." Queen confidentially whispers that they have been trying to conceive another child for over a year. She explains that even the royal doctors are powerless and hopes that the rings can help. Daisy suddenly remembers that she saw a stone in the shop. Maybe it could help in their situation. She advises them to wear rings for now, while she herself explores her new idea. King beamed with joy and eagerly asked her to let him know if she found anything. The next day, Daisy stands by the jewelry store window, anxiously searching for that one specific item. She finds a matching stone, and the man thinks that his wife or match should be nearby. A friendly shopkeeper approaches and asks if she needs help finding something. Daisy hands him the man's stone and, with hope in her voice, asks if he has a stone for the wife to complete the set. The shopkeeper is impressed. She noticed an incredibly rare feature in an unremarkable stone. He says the man's role is barely recognizable, while the wife's role is bright and noticeable. Daisy modestly says that it is all the result of recent practice and a bit of luck. The seller is convinced that he has several wife stones, so he goes to the back room to get them. He returns with a small box full of various stones for the wife to choose from. Daisy leaned over the box, ready to begin the search for the perfect pair. Suddenly, a chorus of voices emerges in her head. The stones are clamoring and begging to be chosen. She realizes with horror that she hears the stones speaking directly in her mind. Although the noise is overwhelming, she hopes that thanks to it her final choice will be more intuitive. Daisy, stunned by the noise of the noisy wife stones, barely copes with their strong personalities. She suddenly understands her husband's stone in her hand is actually shy. Mid the clamor, she hears a modest stone that prefers to remain silent. Following the quiet, gentle voice, she reaches into the box and selects it. Holding both stones, she feels their mutual admiration, a perfect, beautiful pair. Daisy, smiling from ear to ear, joyfully announces that she has found the perfect pair. The brighter stones screamed in shock. She chose Planny's eye. She confidently tells the delighted shopkeeper that she will buy both stones. Later, in the royal castle of Salzburg, she is asked if she managed to make any progress at all. Daisy explains that she suddenly remembered a precious stone and with its help prepared a solution. She extends the rings of fertility, which promise to bring blessings to the couple. She sincerely explains that if they wear the rings, the stem will bring them joy. King was amusingly confused by her strange mention of the stork. Embarrassed, Daisy and Sis realize that the appraiser had directly mentioned this detail. King smiles warmly and says that he is simply pleased to see her behaving according to her age. The royal appraiser confirms the effect of the rings and insists, "Put them on." Overwhelmed with emotion, the queen tightly embraced Daisy in grateful hugs. Daisy, surprised by the sudden hug, assures her that it is nothing at all. The queen shares her deepest wish, that Prince William will have a brother or sister to support him. She thanks Daisy for giving her hope that this dream might finally come true. Daisy sincerely prays that the queen's wish will come true. A year later, twins were born, a prince and a princess, and the whole country celebrated. Then the story moves outside to the facade of Daisy's newly opened atelier. In Inside Adventure, Lisha and Mark froze in amazement, looking at the items Daisy showed them. Daisy jokingly asks for an answer and teases them, hinting that it might come at a price. Mark exclaimed that these rings are national treasures. They heal and protect against diseases. Feigning disappointment, Daisy offendedly asks if they really don't like her creations. Mark quickly explains that these items are exactly what his group of adventurers needs. Giggling cheerfully, Daisy admits that she was just teasing them. Mark worries about the price. He knows that a national treasure is beyond his means. Ren, with Glenn in his eyes, hints at unlimited payment for the escort request. In despair, Mark offers to give his body as payment of the debt. Lydia scolded him for terrible negotiation skills, and he, objecting, insisted that he had good intentions. Daisy firmly tells Reno that craftsmen need to be stricter about payment. Rin sadly looks at the floor and asks if this means that the adventurers do not want these rings. Daisy raised 2 fingers and firmly offered, both for 20 million lair. Greed. Mark placed a heavy pouch of coins on the counter. Daisy and Rin listen as the adventurers finalize the payment agreement. Mark suggests we can work off any remainder by taking orders for escort. Daisy jumped up in surprise, seeing the large sum they were able to pay in advance. Mark again insists that this is exactly what she meant when she said she would be stricter with her money. He happily extends the bag of items, encouraging them to take it. With a bright smile, Daisy politely accepts their generous payment and thanks them. Mark sincerely thanked her for those incredible rings she made for them. Lydia asks if they need to gather any specific materials soon. Rin thoughtfully falls silent, considers the question, and calmly says that she is fine for now. She winked and shared with a smile. She wants to forge magical swords and strong armor. Lydia turns to Daisy and, with a spark of curiosity in her eyes, asks what materials she would like to find. Daisy suggests looking for sage herb, healing moss, and materials for a cloak. Lydia proposed to arrange a joint trip for materials very soon. After a few days, the scene shifts to the great house of Persleria. Daisy returned home with her wolf friend Leaf and loudly exclaimed that she is home. She sincerely greets her mother and sister, and they warmly welcome her home. Her guest Katia smiles and quietly hopes she is not disturbing their family time. Daisy's sister says that Kodia visited and brought them some samples of goods. Daisy, eyes full of curiosity, looks closely and asks what kind of samples these are. Hetty proudly and gladly announces the grand opening of her business and the launch of the first product. Daisy sincerely congratulates on the start of the new business. Her sister explains this is face powder, very popular in neighboring countries. Daisy examines the bottles and her evaluation skill automatically activates. The evaluation screen mercilessly exposes the true nature of the mercury-based face powder. It warns, if abused for a long time, gums will blacken and teeth will fall out. Her sister and Ketty were stunned by the sudden panic expression on her face. Daisy, with horror on her face, warns them, never use these products. The noise attracts her father. He approaches and asks what the commotion is about. He addressed Daisy with a request, confirm whether what you discovered about the product is true. Daisy, with anxiety in her eyes, assures that she double-checked her evaluation. He immediately asked his wife and daughter if they had already used that powder. He strictly forbids its use in their home and tells Katia to urgently collect all samples. Katia, worried, promises to immediately deal with the recall. Later, the father asks if her conclusion identified this substance as a common poison. He explains it is precisely the low toxicity and small doses that make it insidiously dangerous. Daisy clarifies that in her assessment the product was not directly called poison. Her father, with grim anxiety, realizes that this could have slipped past the royal evaluation. Understanding the danger, he resolutely states that they must immediately report this to the king. The action shifts to the formidable royal castle of Salzburg. In the throne room, an official loudly announced a meeting regarding the dangerous import. Hadi and her father bow low, apologizing for bringing in the poisonous product. The royal expert Lord Hinz also apologizes he did not notice the poison. The king gently assures them, you are not here for punishment but to find a solution together. Chancellor says the spread has been stopped, samples collected. Then the king looked at the Chancellor and asked about the results of his investigation. The Chancellor says that nothing serious happened in the country of origin. Some residents suffer from black spots, so they apply even more powder on themselves. The king notices that these reports exactly match the symptoms that Daisy described. The Chancellor adds that infant mortality in that region is suspiciously high. Seeing this evidence, the king decided, this product is undoubtedly dangerous. He officially banned face powder and ordered that even conscientious merchants should not import it. He worries that the gang will not stop illegal smugglers and they will smuggle it in. At this moment of uncertainty, someone raises a hand to propose their idea. The king turned to Daisy and, with a tense voice, asked what she had to say about it. Daisy suggests creating a safe domestic alternative, and then the demand will simply disappear. The Chancellor is impressed by her sharp mind and clever decision. King smiles and agrees with pleasure. Her idea is brilliant. He officially assigns Daisy the task of creating safe cosmetics for all citizens. Daisy accepts the mission, saying a resolute and loud yes. She looks out from the castle, determined and ready to take on her important new project. The king orders Oliver and Cody to fully dedicate themselves to helping Daisy. The story returns again to the exterior of Daisy's atelier. Daisy enthusiastically explains to her friends that they have been tasked with creating a safe face powder. Daisy vividly explains that powder is a pigment used to color the face to make it appear whiter. Crunching a sandwich, her companion with cat ears remarked on how hard life is for noble ladies. The young boy, together with Marcus, clearly summarizes their goal to create a harmless, skin-friendly pigment. Supporting his opinion, Daisy insists that it must have a natural tone to subtly hide imperfections. The cat-eared girl had a brilliant idea. She suggested using safe edible potato powder. Confused by the unfamiliar word, Daisy asks what potato powder is, and a question mark appears above her head. In response, 3 large potatoes were placed on the table with a decisive dull thud. The girl explains that a thin powder naturally forms on the surface of cut potatoes. Impressed by this practical knowledge, Daisy kindly praises her and calls her our permanent cook. With quick habitual movements, the girl began grating the potatoes into a large bowl. After she finished, she noticed the powder and pulp were already barely distinguishable. To solve this, she suggests, let's strain the entire mixture through a clean cloth. She tightly squeezes the cloth, pressing the milky starchy liquid into another bowl. Marcus peers into the liquid and confidently says it is definitely white. He notes that it is not too powdery, and she reassures him after drying in the air, it will become so. The girl with cat ears takes it upon herself to go and prepare a place for him on the bakery's drying rack. Daisy anxiously says that simply drying this substance in the air will take too much time. With a bright smile, she decides to speed up the process, adds heat to evaporate the moisture. She places a pan filled with liquid over the fire, which roars with scorching heat. Heating it, she excitedly shows that the substance begins to turn white. Her excitement quickly melts away when instead of dry powder, the mixture turns into a transparent jelly. Daisy cannot comprehend this strange transformation when the girl with cat ears returns shocked. In panic, the girl with cat ears snatches the hot pan and shouts, "Daisy." She raises a spoon with a sticky semi-transparent mass, and this confirms her worst fears. She is noticeably upset, scolds Daisy, and exclaims that because of such trouble, it was necessary to dry it in the air. Irritated, Marcus briefly explains that they accidentally created a thickener for cooking. Daisy sincerely apologizes and promises that next time she will grate it herself. The next day after that decisive attempt, their experiment continues in the atelier. In the pop-up window it says, they managed to create starch, a safe but weakly covering cosmetic. The girls tried it on their hands. Yes, the skin became lighter, but the effect was too transparent. The shop's bell chimed, and an even more sarcastic girl wonders who could have visited at such an hour. Daisy raised her head from work in surprise and recognized the visitor as a girl named Katia. Bursting in, Katia deeply and sincerely apologized for the mistake that put the country at risk. Daisy quickly calms her down, assuring that the problem was noticed in time and no real harm was done. Katia raises her eyes full of tears of gratitude and thanks Daisy for her kindness and understanding. With a gentle smile, Daisy asks Katia to consult with her before importing new goods. The scene shifts to Daisy's workshop on the first floor. Here their search for an alternative begins. Katia explains with a smile that she brought various materials that might come in handy: plants, ores, and metals. She thought since the original powder was metal-based, she searched for and tested similar materials. Daisy begins to carefully examine the samples, looking for a promising and safe candidate. Her attention was first caught by several seeds of a plant known as white powder. The sign says the seeds and roots of the 4-hour flower are extremely poisonous. Daisy anxiously notices that, despite the hopeful name, the effect of these plants seems very dangerous. Then her gaze lingered on the white powder mixed with the ore sample. And when checked, it turned out this is high-quality zinc oxide with many useful antibacterial and protective properties. A look of revelation suddenly played on Daisy's face, and she triumphantly exclaimed, "Here it is." Katia easily explains, zinc is a common element, so the powder will be easy to extract. She says this powder is a byproduct released by a creature known as lava slime. Daisy thoughtfully decides what this means. They will be able to ensure a reliable supply. The girl from Atelier asks what exactly made Daisy choose this powder among all the options. Daisy summarizes its advantages. It is non-poisonous and provides additional protection. Katia was stunned and could not believe, how did Daisy manage to find all this out just by looking? Confused, Daisy suddenly realizes that she forgot to tell Katia about her secret ability to evaluate. She decides that she can no longer hide such an important secret from her good friend. Later, Daisy prepares to tell Katia the truth about her unique abilities. She apologized to Katia for having hidden her special ability from her until now. Katia smiles warmly, reassuring her, it's all right, and this really explains a lot. Now she understands how Daisy was able to cure her petrification, a miracle that baffled the doctors. Daisy earnestly asks Katia, please don't tell anyone about this. Katia understands, admitting this ability could shake the whole country, and she is very worried about Daisy's safety. She swears on her honor that she will not reveal a word to anyone, and Daisy thanks her with relief. Having shared the secret, Katia cheerfully exclaims that it's time to go hunting for materials again.